we'll start the meeting. It's 6:36 p.m. on June the 6th. First thing we'll do is see if we got everybody. I guess we've got Carl, June, Larry, Pence, myself, Matt here, Hans Law here, and Miss Tom. Tom's here. Hawkins, we're glad you're back. Carol, Janet's not here.
No.
Okay. And Jerry Scally's here. Tom Leahy, right? Okay. So we're 7 out of 8. All right. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've got several important things to talk about tonight, so we'll try to move along and not get bogged down too much. But we'll start with Carl with the where is it?
Treasurer's report.
Yeah, where is it?
Back, it's on the back of the page? No.
Maybe I got the pages out of order there. Oh no, I was supposed to read the administrative announcements. See, I got screwed up. Been too long since we did that.
You can
Y'all
find
don't,
it.
yeah, y'all don't like them anyway. But if you wish to speak or ask a question, fill out the form on the reception table and return it to the table or give it to the secretary or chairman. Why don't you give it to me? And we're going to talk about, Carl will be the first up. He'll give the normal financial reports, and then we'll talk about the budget. So if you got any budget items that you're thinking about hot and heavy right now, it'd be a good time to get you a piece of paper so you can write it down. And I think what we'll maybe do, depending on how this thing goes, is we may want your input before we get off of the subject of budget. We may not either, but we might want to. All right. So I would encourage you on that, and then we're going to talk about another major topic is this Hanson group and where we're at on the proposal that they gave us. So on that subject, I would say the same thing. I'm not guaranteeing you that we'll call on you guys for that discussion, but if you're thinking about questions and you come up with some as we're going through it, jot it down, bring it up here, all right? And we'll see if because those are the two of the most important things that we have going on. So I'd like to get the ball moving down the road. So all right. So the treasurer's report. Now I guess I should read the rest of it. I'll be guilty if I don't. So the chair will address questions, comments after the agenda is complete. Normally in the new business section, you heard my comments about that, no time permitting. Meetings normally last approximately 2 hours. Wait until the chair recognizes you before you talk. Limit your comment or question to 3 minutes unless the chair specifically extends your time. Where 2 or more represent or share common interest, only one will be designated to speak for a total of 5 minutes. For a good cause, the chairman may extend the time limit. Speakers are not allowed to assign his or her time to any part of their time to another speaker. A member of the public speaking on any matter shall confine him or herself to the question or matter before the board, shall not use unbecoming, abusive, or unparliamentary language, and shall avoid commenting on personalities or character of any board member, former board trustees, other officials, staff, or the public. The board reserves the right to have the Clay County Sheriff's Department remove an individual or individuals who fail to meet this requirement. Address your question and comments only to the chairman and not to a specific trustee or individual in the meeting. Trustees can only respond to an individual if the chairman requested it. person who decides to appeal any decision made by the board with respect to any matter considered at the meeting is advised that the same person will need a record of the proceedings, and that accordingly the person may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, including the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. The district attorney, district accountant, engineer advisory group may be requested by the chairman to speak at any time for advice, suggestions, or information. Board meetings are audio recorded and posted on the board website, www.lasmbd.com. Questions can be submitted in advance by email to district.secretary@lansd.com. To the trustees, all trustees, including board officers, must vote. A trustee with a conflict of interest regarding business before the board must declare that conflict with the chair before the vote. District attorney may be consulted on this issue. If a trustee needs to leave early, the trustee needs to advise the chair. An important issue may need to be moved up for discussion earlier for approval and vote. Meeting agenda, okay, approval of the previous month's meetings. Anybody got any comments on the previous one? I think everybody responded pretty well to
With the special meeting as well as last month.
this, okay, both of them. Any comments on either one? No, all the corrections, I think, minor stuff that's been done. All right, somebody make a motion to approve them? Or I'll make a motion to approve the second. Got a second?
Second.
Okay, you got Tom or Matt, either one.
I'm sorry.
I made the motion, Tom.
Okay.
Tom second, let's say Tom second. All right, all those, any discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried, 7-0. Treasurer's report.
Okay, general checking account. We had a electronic funds transfer to Clay Electric. We're now going, not paying by check anymore. We pay by electronic funds. It's automatically taken out of the checking account because their system standpoint of timing has always messed us up. And so we solved it by the board approved by going to EFT last month. Balance as May 31st was $6,014.72. I transferred $10,000 today, and giving us a total of current general checking account balance $4,135.77. Our money market checking account balance as of May 1st was $638,994.99. We've had, of course, our usual transfer of funds from Clay County on the assessment, and as a result, and also with prior interest of $26.14, and reduction of $10,000, our current money market is $605,838.05. Total funds as of right now, $609,973.82. Questions from there?
As best I remember from last month, without looking at the minutes of the meeting, our balance, that 610,000 was around 640,000. Does that sound right? So we should be able to look here and figure it out. But
I didn't memorize it, but,
does that sound right? Go about 30 grand is what we spent
Yeah.
in a month.
we average about $12,500 per month in expenses.
All right.
So the high, maybe 15,000,
Okay.
about right?
17.
Pardon?
And that's 17,000.
Okay, 17,000, the highest in the last few months.
Okay.
Carl, what's the Florida UC fund?
Pardon?
Florida UC fund, what is that?
Well, we haven't got to that yet.
Okay.
We're just doing the general funds now.
Okay.
Any questions on general funds, then we'll talk about checks. Any questions? Then I'll make a motion, we approve the treasurer's report.
Did you second, Carol?
Carol did.
Okay. All right. Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, checks, current checks. Shirley Phillips, $541.90. Florida Unemployment Compensation Fund, $2.04. that is based on Shirley's salary, and that is also done by electronic funds transfer, saving money on writing checks and settling small amounts. So, Matt, you have a question on that?
Nope.
Okay. U.S. Treasurer, $311.08, that is our payroll tax. And then Carl Booker, I had mailings for the audit to the state. I bought some USBs. I did not charge mileage because I was going in that direction. Clay today, we have $47.25. This, they claim was late. We never received a prior invoice. They're having problems with their system of changing over. And they've been changing over for some time, so that's where that came from. Cobb and Gonzalez, $6,195.53. Lee's Valve and Pump, $4,500. That is Tim's monthly maintenance. And then Tom Hallquist, our accountant, $250. Total $11,878.95. So now, do we have any questions about the checks?
Any questions?
Then I make a motion, we approve the checks.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. You got it, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You didn't say aye, did you? Opposed? Okay, carries.
Okay, I'm moving on now. Two quick items. Got into the public facility, first of all, district recertification. I looked at that because Reedy Creek, known as Disney, there was also some conversation. And I got concerned about that, so I checked with Jack Gaston. He is the administrator of the Special District Accountability Program through the Department of Economic Opportunity. And our district attorney Hans and myself agree that Lancaster does not have to recertify. I did not want a major cost arise that was unknown or budget, so we don't have to worry about that. Next thing I got into was the public facilities plan. Jack Gaskins, I contacted Jack Gaskins again, and we both confirmed that Lancaster, while being a dependent special district, there's no state requirement to complete a public facilities plan. Now, we both agree normally only the county can request a plan from us, and in 2009 they did. If I recall correctly, we provided some general information. We also, there was no engineering reports of any kind, it was just general information. And one of the things they requested at the time, that we apply for addresses for the dams, so that we could be part of the Clay County Emergency Network, and that was accomplished at that time. Just so you know, probably maybe you don't know, we had addresses for the dams. They are located on our website under special district information. I also included a copy of that page in the information here. If I copied it correctly, and I did in a hurry, there should be a page with the addresses for the dams. Mine doesn't have it, I was going by heart.
Yeah, it's in there.
You got one, okay? Fine.
Yep.
Well, I found it. Just so you know, there's a question, for example, South Lake Asbury Dam, the address is 351-1. The -1 tells the county that this is infrastructure. They have different coding. Don't ask me what the coding is. This happened back in 2009. All I remember is that when the addresses came from the county, conforming, I asked what was the -1. -1 indicates infrastructure. And again, Lake Ryan is 600-1, and Lake Asbury Dam is 390-1. That has come into play a couple times. Deputy Sheriff's going to call for emergency, ask you the address. Also, you will note down below, I'm sure Ms. Weisenberg will talk more about it. Our new address is on our website, and our new address is 276 Branston Road, Rico Springs, 32043-5205. We're facing our field box. And the mailboxes, as I recall, Carol, they are locked, correct?
They are locked. Yeah. You can put in letters and you can put in small packages like this size, like a box of checks. And then it goes down into the locked stage and Shirley has a key and I don't know if you can shoot out the key. Okay.
Treasurer got one.
Oh, you got one too? Okay, so there were 3 keys to the box and that's all there is, so these are your key.
I made him sign for it.
Good.
The other one's in my safe.
Okay,
Let me, Kay Manley just brought this up, and since we're talking about it anyway, let's get it knocked off. It says, a point of order, the co-owner, Lake Ashbury, Lake Lot Owners Association needs to be included and notified with the address of these 3 neighbors. So, I don't know, Shirley, you probably need to handle that, is get the address to the Lake Lot Owners,
Okay,
because they're a co-owner,
okay.
I think. Okay? All right, go ahead.
okay, I'm moving on to the budget review. Except one additional item, I always include the transaction detail of our assessments, how we collect. And we maintain a 3-year configuration so you know how to pass. Just to give you an idea, 2018 to 2019, we collected 100%. Same applied to next year and next year. This year we're at 97.4. We have 2 more collections to be before it's complete. I only recall 1 year in the last 15 years that it came in at 97.3 or something. I don't remember that because there was a lien on the home, but the following year it said 103 point something. We get our money. And so that's what this identifies. That's why I do it for you. You see the flow, and it's consistent. Thanks. Okay. Next thing we're going to now get into the budget. I provided an exhibit for you. I included last year.
Did you do a new one?
Yeah,
Or a new one here in this presentation?
No, not presentation.
Well, I gave you one. It's like his right here. Right here.
That's what I was asking.
There you go.
There you go. Gotcha.
And I included a column for notes for the key issues. We did a pre-draft, we had discussions. I gave you tremendous amount of notes. And that pre-draft budget, as you went, first time in history we've done one, with a tremendous amount of notes. It's on our website under budget. It's also under treasurer's report, so anybody can find it. And so tonight, we have to approve a draft budget. And then the draft budget is then put on our website, so that next month, July, we finalize the budget with a resolution. And it goes to the county. And our budget, since 1986, has never been disapproved by the county. They could, but they never have. Our budget is attached to their budget. If anybody wants to go on Clay County and pull up their 400 pages of budget, you'll find the last 4 or 5 pages is transfer. And there's one other special district or some community. There's a couple others maybe attached, but we're the very last. Just so you know what happens. Again, tonight we're only approving a draft. The draft must be approved tonight to be put on the website. Next month, we finalize per chapter 189. So we're going to start off, take a look at it. One of the key issues here will be engineering fees. I left that blank. I put in there 200,000 last time. I took it out. The budget is the board. It's not Carl Coker. It is the board. Approve it or disapprove it. So tonight, as we would start with special assessments, Actually, that number, 580,000, Tom, that could also change based on the conversation.
It depends on are you kidding?
I don't know what the interruption was about, but
Sorry about
it wasn't appropriate, so.
The 580,000 is an estimate based upon more recent spending. If the board decides to spend any additional money, that could decrease and just affect some of the numbers down below.
So that's just a carry forward.
Yeah, the 580 is going to be adjusted one more time, and that's going to be for the next meeting. We'll have another month's worth of bills that we paid, and then we'll have 2 months to estimate.
And we take off our discounts and penalties, as you know. Some people pay quarterly, so there are discounts for that. Some people get penalized for not paying on time. And then there's interest income. And then we have, by state law, have to withhold 5% until the following year. But in the meantime, we get 5% for last year. So, there's total revenues. For 2022 to 23 is 981,300. And then we can start looking at expenditures. The salary of the secretary is not going to change much. That's a total personal services. And then we get again now into expenditures. Legal, we're around, we put in 60,000. I upped that slightly from the pre-draft. But here comes the big one, 5312, engineering fees. And my comment is you pick it. Are we going to, if we do Hanson's at 170,000, we don't even know we're going to sign a contract. What we need to put something in there, I'll make a suggestion, we go ahead and put in. Maybe 150,000 and, but it's up to you guys. I'll get you started.
They're already showing 117,000 on what they gave us.
We haven't approved it, we haven't signed the contract
Approved
yet.
it, but
And we probably won't for 60 days, who knows, but I don't know.
I hope that's wrong.
Well, we have a lot
But
to talk about.
that's mine to talk about, and I'll start the conversation on that.
so maybe.
Okay, you still have to come up with a figure tonight.
Okay, their proposal was for 3 months, it'd take 3 months to do phase one, at the $117,000 and $280. And, so that would put us in September, and so we're budgeting for the following, that's the end of this fiscal year we're in, so we'll be budgeting for the next fiscal year, and that'll get you into a phase 2 if we go with them. And, so I would think that we've got to budget, more than a couple $100,000.
Okay.
So having said that, I would say, and this is just a pull it out of the air type thing, is, if we accept some of their contract language, they want a contingency in there, of 5%. Now that's negotiable too, and in discussions and all that. But, so we gotta have some money set aside though. In other words, they're not real enthused with our financial condition, but, so we gotta have some money for that. And I don't know that's not gonna be in engineering, I don't think, or is it? Maybe it is in CIP, I guess. So I don't know, 5% there, and then, they'll be into, phase 2. The problem we've got is anything we give you tonight is gonna be a wild guess, except for that 117,000.
Yeah, this is just, it's a budgeting exercise. We can go above or below as long as the total balances out at the end. And we can go into our reserve or expand our reserve. We're expanding our reserve this year, so.
And we can change the budget.
So 250 sounds like a nice round number to me.
I would say more than that. I would say 350. But I can't defend my number, and I can't defend yours, so I guess it don't matter.
Depends on how many projects we do next year. Depends on how many projects we actually get done next year.
Yeah.
It'll probably be exhausted in modeling before we hit projects.
Yeah, it'll take them a year to do, to do the whole engineering project, once that gets started.
What's the estimate on phase 2?
There's things.
There's not an estimate on phase 2.
I mean, the other thing we could do would
Phase
be,
one, you talk 117,000.
The one, the phase one is 117,000.
the other thing we could do would be to lowball it. We throw in 100,000. So if the opposite happens, if we throw in 500,000,
Oh, yeah, I know where you're going.
their estimate comes back at 480,000 because this is a public meeting, there's a problem. We throw in 100,000 and we keep the rest for reserve, we can still spend it later on. So I'm changing my mind. I want to keep it to 100,000, and if we choose to spend more than that, that's at our discretion.
So you're at 217,000.
No, I'm at a total of 100 budgeted for next year. Where this year we have 0 budgeted for it. If we choose to engage with them, we could spend that entire amount this year, if everything comes quickly.
A grant money won't be available to you to look at until January.
No, that's not necessarily true.
I mean, there could be grants available, but this is us basically allotting a certain amount of money toward a goal. That's what this exercise is.
So your concern is if we put in
That if we overshoot, this goes on the public website and they go, these guys are serious, there's money there to be had.
so we're trying to protect our position.
No, I don't agree with that. I think we ought to be as realistic as we can be in the number. You know, based on
what?
Other projects, so some-
well, we know it's 117,000, you're saying 100, I mean, we know we're off by 17, but
Number one, you have to put in a realistic, what the board feels it's gonna take, you can't just lowball it at 100,000.
there you go.
Okay.
Number two, last year, you spent 170,000 with the court, with all the stuff that's aided. Number three, are you going to be spending the 117 before the end of September, or is that gonna roll over into the next budget?
Well, it depends on who you ask, and we're gonna talk about that in a little bit, but I think I would budget it for this year. Because it'll all, you know.
That's gonna, you know, based upon what the engineers have done in the past, they're really gonna have to like roll it down the highway.
No, it's not them that's gotta roll it down the highway, it's them and us. So there's the problem, is, if we're not careful, we're not gonna be sitting here several months from now and not having made a decision. We cannot. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? You know, they gave us a proposal, it's got 3 months, all right? So here we are, if they started the 1st of July, then they're done by the end of September. It's 3 months. I would, that's the best information we got right now. And I'm only one vote, but that's the best information we've got right now. And so my recommendation to the board would be you put that in for this year. And then we put something in for next year, because they're gonna, you know, if we followed with them, they've got a year's worth in their proposal that they gave us. They've got a year's worth of work in there before you would start construction of anything. And then your construction is still gonna be phased based on money availability and all that.
But we do not know what the costs are. We only know the cost for redoing what 2 other engineers have done. Then they get into, we have to, what I understand, we have no cost, we're not discuss any costs beyond rereading, recertifying what 2 other engineers or 3 other engineers have done, which is required, because no engineer will pick up a piece of paper and sign it.
Do you want me to go through that before we continue this discussion?
No, we don't need to do that.
But you made a comment about costs, and we don't know what they are. That's all I'm saying.
We've just thrown out a bunch of numbers, only one number's been based on something. What was that? Was it 170? Which it
170.
was?
170 is what you paid.
So let's budget 170,000. That's based on something
For the next year?
for next year.
Okay. So,
And also, if you're going to spend 117 before the end of September, that 580 changes to 460.
okay. But I would do that unless somebody disagrees with me.
We don't have to have that discussion now yet. Let's do next year's first.
Again, this is a draft. The draft can change next month when we finalize also. Don't forget that too. We're required to have a draft. And the draft can change. in July, meaning July 11th, because 4th of July is in the first week, we can change the budget that time and finalize that night.
That's fine, but I appreciate Tom's involvement in it. I think it was appropriate because we need to give it a realistic shot. If we think it's gonna be a certain amount, then that's what we need to do.
Okay. Any other comments on that? We'll move on.
So we put in 100, what was that, 50?
170.
53?
170 for,
5311?
for line 5312.
No, 1-2.
12?
And that's assuming 117 is paid
No,
out this year.
117
It's paid out this year,
Paid out this year, which comes off top
150,
of the top line.
175.
so I took it off.
You said 150?
170.
Oh, 170, okay.
Tom has his calculator and his computer calculator for the thing.
Okay.
All right, we're moving on, audit, 10,125, and I forgot to ask for something, I'll ask for at the end of the budget. And then we have accounting fees, 5,000. Then we get in, then we have our tax collector fees, which is 2% from the county, and then we collect on the assessment, they collect 2%. Yeah, that's what they charge. And then at the end of the year, we have the, I don't know where it comes from, the bill for $260 shows up, admin fee. I never know, no one knows where it comes from or why, but we get the bill and we pay for it. Okay, web support, 4,500. And we get down to secretary,
I'm sorry.
we get the secretary travel, a big whopping $500. Trustee travel, $100. So total travel and per diem, because there's really no per diem for six trustees, $600. We get into postage, we estimated $300 last time. We get into, then we get down to utility services, we're estimating $550. And that's for power on the lights in the dam. And then we get a liability insurance, and that is correct, $10,000. Our bond insurance, we have, we carry $25,000 per the charter on the 3 officers who sign checks. That's where that comes from. Where am I at? I lost it. Good, I already did that. I'm moving on down. I'm down here, I'm down below.
You're down around.
All the way to miscellaneous repairs and maintenance. I put in 10,000.
That's light. That's light. We need to go, I'm thinking at least 30.
Any other?
I have a question about that. Are we going to consider the repairs or the work that needs to be done on various fingers in that part, or is that somewhere else?
What work?
Well, the work that I would hope that we're going to do, because we have some in really bad condition that is full of weeds and dirt,
Is that called dredging?
somewhat.
Well, that may fall under, that falls under, what the engineers may approve.
We didn't have dredging in the scope, request for qualification scope for the engineers. We did not have it in there, no.
I know. But I put this in here for conversation. You all can take it out.
Well,
I'm going to talk about Wesley, but Wesley's not the only one that needs to be talked about.
no, and since you said that, you didn't put your name on here.
Dawn Valero.
Dawn put this out. She said the finger on Wesley must underline.
I don't want must because I want a plan, I want it mentioned, there's been enough lip service. The county is like, that is your problem. If we can get them to pay for it down the road, great. But I want to see it in black and white. You want another $200 out of me every month? Well, fix it so I can jump off my dock and hit water instead of land.
This is a bigger project than just the one finger.
It is, because it goes back to drainage. The drainage is, drainage is messed
And
up.
I don't know that whether this is the appropriate way to address this or not, but I attended a meeting about 2 weeks ago with the county people, And there was discussion about studies that they have already given purchase orders to do. And one of those studies deals with stormwater, where all stormwater is coming from and where it's lining up, and is it legal or illegal, and all that sort of thing. There has been a contract let on that, and one of the guys that's on our advisory committee, his company was a subcontractor that was awarded that. And so that whole study, the way I understand it, is that it will address water flows and what's causing fingers to be filled in and all that sort of thing. And it's a county functioning project.
But they're just studying it.
Yeah, they're studying. There's water coming up from the ground.
Yes. And
But
it's not-
we have to prove to them somehow that that water is on them. And I want to swim in that lake with my children, not my grandchildren.
Well, okay.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, if we want it fixed, then we're gonna have to put effort towards fixing it instead of relying on the county may or may not do this or that.
If the county is obligated and they've already taken steps to moving forward with this type of process, then I don't know why we would put it in our budget. And then they look at
Because I
our
don't
budget.
trust them to do it, because
Well,
the last time I talked to them, they gave me the numbers of the EPA.
They what?
They gave me the numbers of the Environmental Protection Service,
Well,
because they gave me the runaround.
I'm telling you, I attended the meeting, and that's what needs
And is
to.
that the one that Brandon Dintrell attended as well? The neighbor that lives on Wesley, who's been pulling out duckweed
Mike,
by
is that the same?
tonnage?
Yes, Brandon.
That was him? Okay, because I spoke to him yesterday, I told him exactly what I thought, that this does need to be on our budget, because it's our problem. Every time I talk to the county, your problem, your problem. They have told me there's no easement, and I actually sent them a picture of an easement on a map. I don't know, unless you can get a lawyer to go after them, you're never gonna get them to do it. That is the honest truth.
That's your opinion.
No, it is,
No,
that, I'm pretty sure Mr. Fox
Listen.
and Ms. Watt and Ms.
Just
Carol
calm
over there
down,
would
calm
agree
down,
with me.
calm down, okay?
Don't ever tell a woman to calm down.
I did.
Wow,
Would you
really?
please, I'm not being
Okay,
sarcastic.
I'm quiet.
Would you calm down? You know, you're not accomplishing anything, but you're gonna get me.
I got everybody's attention.
Okay, fine. You got our attention, but as far as I'm concerned, if we've got the studies going on with the county, and we've got this major undertaking with dam rehabilitation.
Can you show me
And
what
we
the
don't
county
even
said?
know what that cost is going to be yet, then we should not be spending money.
But you can still take it from everybody. But not everybody has these same amenities. I'm not a lake lot owner, I'm a ditch owner, man. So are the people on Hazelwood.
So are the people on,
So yeah, a lot of us. And that's the thing, is I want to see you guys address it. I don't want to see it pushed off anymore. No one does.
I have a question. So this is a draft budget.
It is a draft.
And like he said, it can change next month.
So this is a draft budget. Now, we have categories here for habitat improvement, and we have a category for Hazelwood Hole. Why can't we add a category for this concern? Why is it
Add a category for what?
Wesley Road.
for
I
Wesley?
just want to see it
Put
mentioned.
a line item in the budget to address this.
We not just have the problems that we talk about, but we're also
Then it's no
clogged.
longer a secret.
Right.
Hidden blue.
We're totally clogged with not just dirt and water from somewhere, but we've also got duckweed to the point that we're all out there trying to dig the stuff out, and it just fills in faster than we can go. This is not right. We should not be dealing with this. This should be dealt with by our group, because our charter says that we take care of it.
I have a comment. I suggested a couple times that we begin a program for dredging,
Yes, that's a good idea.
and that was always tossed out. We need to think about that. There are several other special districts that don't have dams like Guadalcanal, they dredge all the time. They have to have a schedule for dredging, and you have a schedule every 5 years, we start over. That's something we don't wanna talk about in the past, we have to talk about it. This is not the only inlet that has a problem. And I also, I will look at and I will always champion Hazelwood Hole. But we get involved in engineering. Now, we've engineered all of our dredging in the past.
Really?
Engineer has been involved, yes.
But I'm back to my question.
Let's go back to
It
you now.
seems pretty simple that we know we have a Hazelwood Hole problem because it's listed here. Why can't we list,
It's called a dredging.
we
can
have
do
a
that.
dredging problem, we can list it.
We can
If
list
we're
it
gonna
as
have a
dredging.
Wesley problem, we should list it.
And I don't know
We shouldn't
how
have
many,
waited.
I don't know how many other channels by name or, inlets by name there are, but I definitely know about Hazelwood Hole and I definitely know about Wesley Road. It's not like all of us aren't trying to deal with it, but we are not capable.
The last time I counted was about 60.
So how about we change 5630 to dredging and bump it up to say 50?
Bump it up to what?
50,
50,000
yeah.
or,
Every bit of it.
I'm sorry?
It'll cost every bit of it.
That's not, yeah, I mean, that's not gonna solve the problem, but that is some money to fix some issue or start some modeling associated with it.
They'll change.
Yes, sir. Really good night, yep.
614 Ransom Road. I think you need to keep in mind that budgeting and spending are two different things.
Okay?
You know, we all need the dredging has to happen. We should have money budgeted for it. We should collect money for it. If we don't need to spend it, we don't spend it. We do a lower assessment the following year. But if you don't put it in next year's budget, then you won't be able to spend it for another year because you have to get money in next year. Budget after that. So, I don't see any problem in budgeting $200,000. Doesn't mean you have to spend it.
Okay, so that's your,
I'd like to interject another problem with your dredging. And I don't know if you were on the North Lake or the South Lake, but
on the south,
South Lake where I am, the first finger on the right from the dam, there are about 4 pieces of property right there with no bulkheads whatsoever. You can dredge from now until your grandchildren are swimming into place, but it's going to continue to fill in because of the lack of bulkheads also.
That's what the county told me as well.
Well, we have bulkheads.
We do. Some, but there
Oh,
are,
yeah.
there are two.
I know, I have a bulkhead too, but there's 3 or 4 properties over there. One
Two.
guy has come all the way down, to the lake with, 2 roadways and no bulkhead whatsoever. He just moved in here, 2 years ago, okay?
It's, yeah. It's
Remodeled everything and he's got, that crushed stone running down.
You're talking about the one on Alders Day?
It's, it's the 4th or 5th house across the lake from me
Yeah,
on the dam.
yeah.
He put in 2 driveways, no bulkhead whatsoever. It's gonna, every time it rains, it's gonna run off. That whole slough or whole, you know what I'm talking about. There's 3 or 4 other properties on the other side, they have no bulkhead whatsoever.
Okay, but all right, well, okay, so we can't force them to get a bulkhead, does that mean that we shouldn't address it?
Well, you might
We
not
still
know.
have to address it.
All I'm saying is, everybody is wasting their money by dredging if you
Well,
don't
no one's
have.
wasting any money right now, that's the problem. We need some money put into it. If it requires maintenance, great, but we have 2 properties there without bulkheads. I have a bulkhead, Fox has a bulkhead, there's a bulkhead, and there's going to be a bulkhead failure very soon, since the water does not drain and has made a way around. The other bulkhead is now cascading over Mr. Fox's, and it has been for a long time. So I imagine eventually that bulkhead's going to give way. I have no idea when, but it's bad, it's a waterfall, continuous.
Done.
The discussion is to approve the budget. Does the board want to put dredging on the budget? And if so, how much does it want to put in there?
Yep.
It should not be listed as just dredging, in my opinion, because somebody needs to look at the cause of why you're getting all this stuff, like Hazelwood Hole.
Yes, but the dredging just kind of encompasses what we're going to be looking
It
at.
requires,
Should be dredging and repairs, or dredging and source.
it needs to be looked at from an engineering standpoint as
Just
to.
name it anything.
That's what, but I don't know, if you say dredging,
What do you
that
want to
kinda
name,
says
what do
the
you want to
county-
name
the
it?
county, some kind of engineering evaluation, possible ready. I don't,
Do we have a historical record of what was the dredging they did X number of years ago?
There is some record that was dredging done by the county. A quickie, I understand years ago, and then we paid the budget at that loan, was about 10 years ago, $340,000 we spent on dredging. And we had no engineer at the time, Mike Wingy, did aided compensation and did work on some engineer work, and that was completed. Everybody complained about it because they didn't get their finger. This finger over here is caught, the finger over here wasn't caught. Later we did the dredging in Lake Ryan, we got a heck of a deal. That was $67,000, like 5 years ago. That's about all the dredging I'm aware of for past history.
So what were the numbers again?
Okay,
Lake Ryan
about
was
15 years
67.
ago, there was a general dredging of the lakes, not Lake Ryan. It was loan with Wachovia was $340,000.
340K, that was both lakes up in the.
Mine, definitely Lake Asbury, how much was South Lake, I don't know. We do have some records in file.
They were both done all the way, Carl, South Lake and.
Was it? Okay.
Completely dredged.
Well, they were.
Which was about 12 years ago.
But we still have people complaining their finger was not, supposedly.
They were dredged all the way.
They were all the way
back. You drive your boat down every finger and turn around and come back.
Okay, both Lake Asbury and South Lake Asbury, right? Yes. But Lake Ryan was not consistent. Okay, so Tom, the $340,000, as Tim says, both Lake Asbury and South Lake Asbury were completely dredged, and we paid $340,000 for that.
But not Hazelwood Hall.
It was.
Yes, it was.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a
And
4-foot
you
call.
drive all the fingers for about a month.
That's what we're saying.
And then the hydrilla, because of the dredging, the hydrilla, it wakes up the hydrilla.
Yes.
And both the lakes were like part of the hydrilla.
So considering inflation.
And then 5 or 6 years ago, Proven got a very good price. Mike Helfer was our engineer, got a very good price, and matter of fact, it was from a firm from Indiana. They didn't want to go back up to the coal, and they charged us $67,000 or $68,000. Everybody else wanted to charge $150,000. They got the bid to do Lake Ryan. I think they did a pretty good job. And there we are today.
Okay, so based on those numbers, if we put in 250K per year, we're in the ballpark. If we set up a rotating program. Yes, no? I'm trying to
I mean,
get
your
my,
guess is good as
I'm trying to get
mine.
my bearings here.
I'm not an engineer, I don't know.
Why would Lake Ryan
So,
It
that
was
was my
dredged,
idea.
it was dredged 5 years
We
ago.
put a dredging line item in here for a little bit of money and set up a program.
We can set up a program, yes. So, what is the figure?
You also did Bush Court.
Yeah.
You also did Bush Court.
That's right, we did for 35,000, that's right.
You did fine.
That was like 35,000?
35,000 for Bush.
That's right. I forgot about that. Okay, so now you got the entire dredging history at 35,000 for Bush Court. That's filled back into.
Didn't we sell the spoilage when All the spoilage that was dredged out
No,
of
it's up
No,
there.
it's down here on, off Lake Ryan. Still there. It should be moved.
In the back, that's it.
So what is the board thinking now? You're gonna put a line item of dredging?
I still say dredging 50,000. Let's be done with it.
How much?
50.
It's gonna have engineering work looked at before you do it, right?
The 50 can go toward the engineering.
Right. So engineering / dredging.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
And if that thing was done 12 years ago and it didn't last any time till you got several hundred yards of dirt in Hazelwood Hole, that needs to be looked at, and more discussion needs to be had with the county, because my understanding through the grapevine, that's all it's based on, and that's why Walt, no, what's it? Mark Wantoni, and some other people are meeting with the county, and that led into this engineering outfit getting a contract, right?
And
So,
I've sent videos to Mark of the waterfall and the pictures of the finger and everything.
yeah, so what we need to do is we'll put it in the budget. Like you said, that you can put anything in the budget, it's a budget. But we need to push, and Mike was in the meeting, I was in the meeting. We need to continue pushing with the county
I agree.
to get them to do stuff.
Okay, does that need some lawyer interactions with people?
Well, so
Make
far,
that happen?
Well, first of all,
it could, I don't know.
by charter, we cannot sue the county.
No, it just.
I'm not talking
No,
about suing
no,
the
no.
county. I'm talking about a logical presentation /
Oh, well, okay, all right.
interaction with the county and let them know we're serious.
Yeah, sometimes lawyers speak louder than others. Because they're a lawyer, they know the law.
Once you see gushing water coming out of the ground of Wesley, you have no idea where it's coming from.
It's gotta be runoff, it doesn't come from it
It's not
underneath
runoff,
the
it's coming
ground.
out of a pipe, but it's not the pipe to that thing across the street from us.
Well, and that's what this study that I'm talking about addresses. What did he call that, Mike? Illicit
Yes.
inflow or something?
runoff,
So,
Where's that one? Instead of rating every year, it stops.
we're not gonna solve that here, but there is that study going on, there have been engineers involved in it, they've been given contracts by the county, and we'll put some money in here, so pick a number, Matt said 50, for dredging engineering / dredging. But, yes, ma'am.
Maurice Lanier, 163 Aldersgate Street. Then can you also keep homeowners from bringing sand in and building beaches? Yes. Because across from me, I have called MSB, I've called Lake Lot owners when we've seen a homeowner bring sand in and build a beach right along the river. So it's not just silting from other places coming in, it's also homeowners.
And importing their sand.
Yep, lots of white sand beach.
Well, that gets, we're going around
They
it.
want a beach. I've got a property to sell them.
Yeah, no bulkhead, yeah.
You got a boat lift that you.
Well, they got bulkhead, but it goes way into their property, and then they have sand or
Oh,
water.
okay. That's all that's good.
Yep.
Okay, all right, we'll take note of that, but I don't know that we can, all right, let's keep it with what Lance can do. All right, we're budget, engineering / dredging, and
And also weeds. We have weeds,
weeds.
duckweed.
Well, and algae.
I mean, that can't just be put off, because now it's floating
Yeah.
out into the lake.
Why don't we hire,
Doctors.
Lake people, we use them.
Well,
We do
look, I'm gonna interrupt because we do have a group of gentlemen working on that are calling for consultations for multiple organizations, and they're getting advice from the University of Florida. So before we go in and reinvent it tonight, I think it would behoove us to listen to those gentlemen that have done some work already. That's all, that's the only where direction I was taking.
Lake doctors is saying to me on the phone that we've got call after call after call, and that they have a permit in process for
We
somebody.
have a permit in process as well.
Who's that permit belong to?
It will belong to Lola.
So
Which
it's
we
not
have.
ours, and it's yours.
It will be.
They don't-
Somebody had to start, somebody
Okay.
had to order
All right,
the
then-
permit, somebody had to put something in process.
Then we've addressed dredging, and I think come on, that is theirs. So
Well, now, we may come back to you once we discover what the
Fine.
costs are and we
But-
get the work done.
but right now, you're not, right?
Our charter says we are accountable.
That's why I'm saying it's a joint effort, but somebody
Yes.
had to start it.
Yes. So it doesn't alleviate us from being responsible, it's just they started it.
We're in the process of getting a permit, we're in the process of getting bids for them to come in and address the algae. We have a significant algae bloom in Lake Asbury.
And duckweed.
Like, honestly, like, I don't have duckweed, I have dirt where my dock is, but that duckweed doesn't start very far. And I used to feed fish, bass, the size of your head. No bass, no fish, because that duckweed is now gone from like the finger and all the land. Now it's gone past hers and it's branching out. I mean, it's going out of the lake, it really, I mean, it has grown significantly. I don't know anything about duckweed, no idea, but I'm guessing it likes heat. Because as soon as it got hot, it shot.
For sure it's duckweed.
Yes, absolutely. for
She
sure.
says it is.
And we.
Hey, also, just put a vote on, me and Wolf working on that, and the permit, no labor company's quote, without a permit, that's what we're looking at Mark Montana for the permit, and he's working on it now. They're gonna give us quotes, and, we don't really have a dollar fight, we'll just present it to Lola or Lambs and y'all figure it out.
There you go.
We're just back.
Yeah, appreciate that, Mike. The other thing, I mean, when we sit here and we talk about some of these things, everybody's gotta be pretty frustrated with some of these things, because you mentioned you had to get a permit. You used to have one. What happened to it? I mean, you can ask all kinds of questions about that. You're not gonna do anything until you get a permit, even if you knew what you were gonna do.
We also learned historically, and this is before my time, and way before hers, that they used to lower the lake and we cleaned out that stuff along the edges, the hydrilla and all that crap.
That's what it is for.
Yeah, and it was done on a semi-year basis. They lowered the lake and people got out and got the stuff out.
And then somebody got lazy, pardon me, I'm out of order.
Yeah,
Somebody got lazy, and they didn't want to do that anymore, because I was told it was a smell when you lowered the lake, so they wanted to buy grass carp. And I got this from the University of Florida. So they bought grass carp, brought them in here, and so many per acre, and the people who lived here at that time weren't happy with the time that it took for the carp to eat all the grass up, so they ordered them again and put it in place. Now, they've eaten all the vegetation, with the exception of the lily pads, and you have no filtering system in your water at all. It is that simple. The people who lived here before me, and I don't know how long, but they created the problem by bringing the grass carp in. You wouldn't have algae or nothing in this lake if they hadn't done that. Nothing. And the people at the University of Florida, they'll tell them, won't they?
Yeah.
Tell you point blank, when you brought the grass carp in here and eat up all your hydrilla, that's God's and Mother Nature's filter, and when you eliminated all of it, instead of lowering the lake, it's like all the other lakes that have it do, and clean away from it as far out as you want to go, it's going to grow back, yeah. But you haven't ruined your lake by destroying it all and eliminating the filter. It's too late now.
Are there?
Okay.
All right, we got that covered.
I think all we covered was the engineering / dredging, right?
I'm moving on.
We're going to bridge.
Did we decide on an amount to put in? Because he said 50 and I don't think that's enough.
What do you want to do?
I put
That,
100 in.
that figures for dredging and engineering, you gotta do a little engineering too.
Then I definitely don't think 50 is enough.
I think as part of the plan is the first year we do some engineering, so we have a plan. And we will build on that plan.
We have no money, if they get their permit through and they tell us what to do, we have no money in this budget to do any part of that.
We don't know how much it's gonna be.
So what? We don't know how much more of this
Well, we
stuff.
put in 50,000 for dredging and engineering at this moment.
Then let's call it something else and put money in for it.
Like what?
I said, I put 100,000 in. It's a budget.
It's a draft budget.
It's a budget.
I know, it's a
But
budget.
let me tell you this, we did get one draft amount 2 years ago to treat one lake over a 3-year period, to treat it each year, 3 times for algae, and the fee was $64,000.
But that didn't include ducking.
No, that was just, just the algae that's in there currently, which is, called it
Swamp stuff.
yeah.
What is the spring?
It's not the blue-green algae that's poisonous.
Okay, let's not try to solve the thing from a technical standpoint. Okay, that's good. Somebody else is gonna give us the technical information. We're not here to figure out what the technical
Oh, we can
stuff
put it
is.
in the budget.
You can put it in the budget. You wanna up it to 100,000?
I do.
Then put 100,000 in.
100,000.
I mean, somebody disagree? Say aye.
We'll do that at the end.
All right. Well, yeah, but I don't wanna come back and start this whole
Okay, we
debate.
got 100,000.
Oh, it's gonna
let's
happen.
Move on. Okay, scheduled monthly maintenance, that's 10, that's 54,000.
Hold on, Carl, where are we?
Pardon?
Which number are we on?
54,601.
Thank you.
54.
It's the last one, 54,601, scheduled monthly maintenance, right now. Page 2, I included the coast drain repair on the South Lake Ag Service. That requires, understand, maybe some engineering. Do we want to include it, or include it, leave that as part of it?
Include it, but again, I think that's light. Let's throw 30 at that.
All right, 2 engineers actually agree.
I don't, but that's all right.
Oh, what do you think? What's your number?
I'm gonna accept their number.
Okay, I took bowling next one, 54613, currently 28,100, and I've not heard from Chad, so I gave it a 5% inflation and kicked it to 30,000. We kicked out fire ant treatment, and we have a blank for habitat improvement fish. And then we get into, then we have a total. The computer will tell us a total for 5460.
So just,
Well, we'll get that at the end. What?
so historically speaking, what does a batch of fish cost?
6,000. Oh, no, it's 2,000.
2,000 look.
Yes.
Yeah.
It depends on how many loads we got.
And we got it from a farm in New Lakeland.
What kind of fish?
Shad,
So I would
feeder fish.
put 2,000 on at least for the fish.
You want 2,000 for fish?
You had 6,000.
We have always had 6,000, and then we spent the 6,000, so.
If I can interrupt, just as far as the fish go, there is a species of fish called tilapia.
Yeah.
They will eat algae.
Really?
They will eat algae. There's a lot of lakes that put it in there. The problem is, I don't know how much it costs, but bass also love tilapia. So you have to get enough of them in there where they can really start working on the algae for you before the bass, they eat them all up. But that is the way to go without spraying and without all these other ideas. But there's a couple fishermen out here will tell you that tilapia will eat algae where grass carp will not.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a
Am I-
placeholder.
Mr. Lay, am I not correct?
Well, at least you can eat.
So if you wanna put something in your budget, put, and like you said, it's a budget, you don't have to use, put $10,000 for your fish again.
And then some of us will find out how much sloppy it costs.
Okay.
I tried to find out who Mark McMillan was dealing with and everything like that.
We can get that to you.
I have no information whatsoever.
Larry, we can pull the records on that.
I'm trying to get it, okay? If you get it, I'll find out how much it will cost and let you know.
But I want to make one point, any kind of stuff like that is gonna be not based on a consensus of some kind of town hall meeting here, it's gonna be based on scientific information,
Correct.
okay? Good, thank you.
We got it.
Where else?
Okay, we're moving on to, let's see here. Commercial activities, advertising legal, you see that $800. Computer software.
Hold on, Carl, why did we go to 800 versus 350?
Because we've been advertising more.
Do we anticipate advertising in the next year?
Legal ads, everything we do, well, we got
These are for meetings and special.
meetings, et cetera, special meetings.
Okay.
If we're gonna,
Okay.
engineering wise, it requires, I mean, the ad is not a short ad either.
Okay. I'm good at
And
it.
the average, if I recall, Hans, like $100, 102 to 120-ish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be around there.
So, you throw in your normal, 800, maybe a little high, but not much. Computer software, that's something we still need, a system that, overcomes the dance hall, atmosphere here where you can't hear nothing. And we do need a system someday with some mics so we can hear each other and record properly. The actual system that was quoted was around 5,000, but we can work with segments of that, but we need to get there. Because, I'll look over across the room, I'll see someone squint with their eyes, they're trying to figure out what's said. So, and plus the fact we're not getting good recording sometimes. So, that may be low. Office supplies, 1,500. Membership fees, $175, that is, the membership fee for cheese. It's, our membership in, DEO, which is, all the special districts, pay $175 a year.
Is that a requirement to exist?
It is a requirement.
Okay.
Pay it or you're fined. And we're talking about, we need to, get involved again with the Florida Association of Special Districts. That membership will be $1,000.
What's the benefit of that, Carl?
The benefit is this. It is, the Association of the State of Florida for Special Districts. They provide education, etc.
About what?
I mean, ongoing topics. I gave everybody a copy of what they did.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Number two, I'll give you an example. We were involved in the first assessment. The secretary and I called Lewis and Long and Walker. By the way, Terry Lewis is the general counsel for FSD for the last 35, 40 years. And he got involved and they helped us pass that bill. We get a call, I get a call that says, we have, for example, Obama's shovel ready. You've got 24 hours. Here's your form, complete it. We're gonna send everything from Florida FSD into Washington. We're gonna see if we can get money. They organize things like that. For example, also now we have a new executive director, David Rama. He's an attorney. I won't hold that against him. But he's very well organized. He's getting everything. He's the one who told me when we were looking for an attorney. He said, by the way, costs are going up for small special districts. Your annual audits for small special districts are now hitting 15,000. Ours is at 10 as of this year. Coming next year. He's getting innovation base going that will help us more. I attended their when they have back when we used to belong training courses were somewhere nearby like Gulf Village. They were very good. We actually got Terry Lewis himself teaching classes, etc. So I'm saying we take a look at it again. because another thing is on the financing. They have ability to help us push into some areas of financing that we will need.
Okay, I'm good with
It's a
it.
board decision, but I suggest we try for a year. Okay, now, let's see here, that's a total, and we now get infrastructure, and that will change now, Tom. We don't know yet, the magic computer will tell us shortly. I also have tree removal on Lake Ryan and Lake Asbury. Now, someone, I forgot who it was, the last meeting, I think it was our chairman, suggested we might wait for the engineer on this. That's a board decision.
Yeah, so Carl, my 2 cents is, I think we should remove, the 710,000 from those 2 line items entirely. We aren't going to be spending.
Which
and
line are you on?
5630, both 5630, well, 2 of the 4 5630s, the first 2.
You talking about tree removal?
And infrastructure CIP fund.
Well, that would change. We don't know what that figure is yet.
What do you mean that'll
We're
change?
changing-
We're approving
we're
a budget.
changing- We're changing lines here. That will change. We'll let you know shortly. I don't know what that figure is.
I thought that's how much we were budgeting for CIP repairs.
Not necessarily.
The CIP budget number is the excess cash after everything is done that we are holding in abeyance for doing the CIP work in the future. There's no place to put future spending. That's where it's going.
How is that different from reserve for capital?
We're required to have reserve for capital, and that's, there's 2, reserve for capital, and there's a reserve for contingencies. The reserve for contingencies is required by the Florida statute. The reserve for capital is part of what Clay County wants us to put in our budget. And we're also kind of calling that our emergency reserve because banks have already indicated that they'd like for us to have $1 million emergency reserve funds before they like to loan us anything.
That was some banks. Now, some banks are not required, so it's 350 plus.
So I'm still not understanding the difference between, you're saying that the 460 is just a number left at the end of the puzzle? Okay.
The 460 and the emergency reserve are balancing numbers along with that reserve for contingency. So everything from capital outlay down is balancing numbers.
So my 2 cents is, and I was going to address this at a later point, I don't support going to 2,400. I will not support going to 2,400. I think 1,200 is more than sufficient to meet our needs for a minimum of the next year. I will resign if we approve a budget that exceeds $1,200 as an assessment. And I think one way to get down to $1,200 is to eliminate those 2 line items. That's $710,000. That tree removal is not threatening the dam right now. That is getting to the point where we can replace the spillways. That's the biggest urgency as far as dam repairs go, and that comes with the modeling project. So that's my 2 cents.
My 2 cents is, I know what the banks are telling me. I'm throwing out the $1 million cash reserve, Wells Fargo money. But every other bank wants us to have a cash reserve. We don't have a cash reserve, and my position on 1,200 is too low. But the board makes the final decision. If we want to have a reserve and have cash available for potential loans, $1,200, I don't know what that figure is, but $1,200 is not it.
If you need to come up with a reserve in 3 to 5 years. If you come up with a reserve in 5 to 10 years, that number is going to be a lot lower, Carl.
I understand, but our first problem is
We don't need to go out and get a loan. We don't need to go out and get a loan. We can self-finance. There's no reason we can't. It's going to take 1 to 2 years to model. It's going to take 3 to 7 years to parse out all these projects. We're looking at 10 years of assessments we can spread this over.
okay. That's a board decision.
I understand that.
Okay, all right. So we'll be voting on that shortly. I think we need $24 the first year, and then we can model it back down. We need some cash that's sitting there.
We have $500,000 sitting there right now.
Yeah. Look at inflation on cost.
I understand that,
And I
but
don't know what that is, and you don't either. I'm not arguing with you, I'm just saying, I think at first year, we need to clock into 2,400, and we can back down.
I'm saying if you move forward to 2,400, it will be without me.
Okay, that's fine.
It's gonna wind up being a vote.
It'll be without me. Okay. We are finished with the general discussion of the budget. He's gonna run it through the computer. In the meantime, one quick thing, I need permission from the board to sign the letter of engagement with the auditor to start the audit, to begin the audit for next year. For the audit year ending September 30th, 2022. I need the board's permission to sign. You'll have a copy. It's a standard letter of engagement.
Make a motion so the Carl has our permission to sign the document.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Going down, looking at the changes that I've reported, the fund balance dropped, carry forward dropped to 460. Engineering fees went in at 170. The miscellaneous repairs and maintenance was up to 30,000. The program repair was up to 30,000. The engineering dredging was put in at 100,000. The infrastructure is now set at 400,000. And the reserve for contingencies is at 1,565. $1,565. And that gives us a balanced budget.
Since we can't generate copies here, it included everything we asked tonight. It is a draft.
Okay, so what is, how far are we in the red if we go to 534,000 in assessments?
You don't know that unless you know what your engineering fees are going to be next year. All we know today in concrete numbers is
We're budgeting.
117,000.
No, what I'm saying is he has an Excel sheet. The Excel sheet says 1.068 million. I'm saying, what does it take if you change that plus the 6 related items to half of what they are? We're going to be in the red. It's a certain amount, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be damn close to what tree removal and infrastructure come out to.
Okay, if we just change, basically comes down to a 1,200 assessment, $490,000.
And that's with 400,000 in infrastructure and 250 in tree removal still in the budget?
250's gone,
250's gone, so that's with 400.
that was 400.
Okay. So we eliminate the 400, we're still 90 in the hole.
Yeah, but you could take the 350 reserve for capital, the emergency reserve, and drop that down to.
And is that's
260.
that's inclusive, but I mean, that's also, let me phrase this right. That is taking into account that we're starting 500 ahead. So we would be eating into that 500 by 150.
Starting 460 ahead.
Yes, 460.
And that is part of this budget. That's
Okay.
included in this budget.
Okay.
So if we spend everything that's on this budget and we reduce we eliminate the 400 and reduce the reserve for capital emergency reserve down to 260, you will have no money left at the end of the year. Your bank accounts will be empty.
Yep.
I mean, you would have a $260,000 reserve.
Okay.
number's gonna have to be higher.
Yes.
And we know the state's already admonished us about trees on dams. We can't take that money over there. It's gotta be something.
The state has no power or authority over this board.
I would find that hard to believe. Maybe technically.
There's no precedent for the state of Florida in intervening and taking over somebody's dam.
Maybe technically, but politically, I wouldn't want to find out.
Okay, we're not going to have a giant dam failure over some oak trees on the dam. We will have a dam failure over seepage. We will have a dam. I'm telling you as an engineer who specializes in flood control inspections, who specializes in inspecting over 100 miles of federal flood control levees, those deficiencies are not rated highly on our inspections. They're not rated highly with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers either.
They were rated, the North Dam was rated unsatisfactory by our previous engineer. That has got us into all kinds of crap with the state. And that cannot be ignored.
We've got to move forward on all these fronts. It may not, it doesn't need to be 250,000, but we can't just cross it off. And I'll get to that later, or we can talk about it now. You know, I've heard talking about tree removal. You know, I've heard, oh, well, we've got a tree inventory and it's somewhere at the surveyor's office, and he's too busy to go find it. So I did my own little tree inventory on Lake Ryan, and I'd like now to go find out, well, what's that going to cost me, because nobody's ever showed me a budget. What's it cost to dig up 16 trees? And then we can use that little program to extrapolate the North Dam. We can't do nothing.
I'll find the survey for you, it's completed. When Mike Langy was like,
I've got it.
that's right, you made a copy, I'll give you the after. We can get you a copy.
I would like to get a copy. It's been one topic for a month. So that's something to copy.
In the, I think you participated in it, there was a dam safety thing put on by the state people. And I think that in there, they did recommend you have an engineering, take at least a cursory look at that.
Yeah.
So you can't just go out and start chopping trees down.
Nobody's saying that. We can't take it out.
We could take it out because that's the only piece of CIP in there. Why wouldn't we put that money to another piece of CIP that addresses a bigger risk?
I think that's kind of a big number.
I thought you said you took it at 250. 250's out. Right.
We're arguing 6 different ways about this. I think the way to go is we need to determine how much money we're bringing in first, and we probably should vote on that. And then we go line item by line item and see what we have left. It seems like there's probably only 4 or 5 line items that are contentious, and if we have to have 4 or 5 votes, get it done with, get it knocked out quickly. That's my 2 cents. So I'd like to make a motion that for this budget, that we adopt a $1,200 assessment for the following year.
Do you want to hear the discussion about the engineering update from the Hanson engineers?
Yes, we'd like to.
That is very important to our decision on what we do from a budget standpoint,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
Absolutely.
So do you want to get into that now?
I do before I want to talk about a $1,200 assessment.
2022.
What?
At least 2,000.
Well, now, see, we're not gonna get into all kinds of comments. Here's our situation. If y'all remember, we on February the something of 2021 is when Tracy Wood sent us a nice little letter. I have a copy of that. It's on our website. It's been talked about nearly every time, I think every meeting where we've talked about capital improvements with dams and dam rehabilitation. So that is not something, Tracy Woods clearly said, you guys better not be sitting here, when I became the chairman, active chairman, you better not be sitting here 5 years from now in the same condition you're in, all right? We had Tim Lee repair valves and do all kinds of stuff, all right? So we had improved our situation, but that letter is still sitting out there, all right? We went through the referendum, and the assessment increase up to $2,400 was passed, right? You could argue about how many people didn't vote and all this kind of stuff. That's the judicial system, the way it was set up, and it was followed, and it passed. All right. So then we went into a request for qualifications, and we got Hanson in combination with Bergman and Kimley Horn. And they gave us a presentation, and we agreed that yes, they seemed to be qualified, and quite frankly, they were the only one that put in. But the other side of that story is Walt Rigner, who is on our advisory board, works for Black and Veatch, which does bigger jobs than what these guys do, and he knows some of these guys personally, and he knows the capability and quality of group they are. All right? So we agreed based on what they had to say and providing a little bit more information on earthen dams that we would go ahead and say, you guys give us a proposal. I messed up a little bit, didn't communicate totally clearly, but I clarified that. So the board got, and the advisory group got a short write-up that said, here's we'll do this phase 1 study for you for $117,000. Then they had it broken out and stuff like that. I said, wait a minute, that wasn't the way we were expecting you to do that. You were to give us a contract for doing this work, and it was supposed to include the scope, and it was supposed to include the price. All right? So that's what we said in the last meeting. All right? And I clarified that with them. They came back and said, well, we can do a contract, and that's where it. So they took, and I submitted that to all of you. Y'all read it? Anybody not read it? Okay? So you're gonna know what I'm talking about, but some of the people here in the audience don't know what we're talking about. They converted the contract into there's three pieces they sent us. One is a professional service agreement, and they would want us to sign off on it. And then it goes into attachment A, scope of services. And in that, what they're saying is that they will help us with 3 what do you call it?
Grants.
Grants.
Grant type or some type of financial aid. It's not necessarily grant, but some of the grants just you know, you got to pay for it up front and you got to refund it. But they do that through Kimley Horn, and they have done. They feel very confident in that. Now that we don't know until that is in place, if it's in place, if it's approved. Then that's where your money's coming, in my opinion. That is a big ticket item for us, and $2,400 a year and all that. We're not gonna know that yet. We're not gonna know it. But the first scope that they put in here talked about the grant business and the fact that they, you know, and they're already talking about it. They're already looking. They've already coming up with a matrix and all that sort of thing. So that's part of what's in this proposal. The other is to meet with both the state DEQ and St. John Water Management District, and that is to try to clarify what the expectation is going to be to design this thing. You know, you can go back to 1978, that Corps of Engineers report, and it said that the thing should have been to a PMP value back then, in 1978. Right? We did the South Dam at half PMP. That's what the COI was dealing with. But they never showed us anything, to my knowledge, in writing that said they got any agreement from St. John Water Management District, who's the permitting authority, or the state. The state obviously is not the permitting board, but they're the ones that can certainly have an input into it, will have an input. So that was one of their orders of business. So the second item would have been-
They signed the permit. That was St. John's approval of it. When they approved the permit, they approved the half PMP
the state.
for the south dam.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
But
right.
in theory, you get applied. In theory.
Well, let me go on where I'm at, all right? Y'all are gonna get me screwed up here, and I've already lost my train of thought once or twice. But, so they meet with a Lansma representative, not by themselves. They'll be with somebody designated from our group. Could be somebody on the advisory, could be both, I don't know. You gotta watch the sunshine law business, hon, so if it's more than one board member, then one of them can't talk. At least I repeat that because I was at a meeting like that one time and couldn't talk. Boy, that was hard. But anyway, you might want to weigh in. So if they go talk to the people in Tallahassee, like Tracy Wood and that group, then somebody from here will be there. Just in some of our advisory group discussions, there were comments about, well, you got to watch what you agree to and all that. And really, their discussion that they put in this proposal, it was stuff right out of Tracy Wood's letter to us back in February of 2021. So this wasn't them saying that. This is them reading what Tracy Wood was responding to. So you got to have those two things on the go before you got an idea of what are you going to have to design this restaurant to. And then they got reviewing all of the current information that we have, surveys, soil borings, inspections, all those sort of things that we had Jackson Geotechnical and I don't know who all do. But there's a whole list of previous engineering information that they have to review because they have to assume responsibility for that. They can't just say, well, we don't know what they did. They got to look at it and they got to determine, is it accurate, is it not accurate? And in my personal opinion, not being a PE or anything, is that some of that stuff that Jackson put in there and DeCoy put in there wasn't accurate. It's not accurate. So we've got to help them on that. So they do that. Then they come up with, okay, what else do we need to do based on the research that they've done? What else do they need to do to additional checking, more soil sampling, piezometers, or whatever the heck it may be? They have to evaluate that and say, hey, we're going to have to do more because we can't accept what's been stated there so far. And in addition to that, they'll have all of their different experts come here with representatives from Lansma for plant visit, tour, looking at all these dams and all the issues and that sort of thing. Once they finish that, that's phase one. Its cost is $117,750 or something. Right? In addition to that, they wrote a contract, general conditions. That's really a contract. That rascal is 6 pages. It's got stuff that Hans and his group would need to look at. But it's got some things that we as a board would need to look at and weigh in on too. It's got a termination clause in here. You can terminate it for good cause. It's got, they want a 5% contingency fund. So, when you start talking about money and budgets and all that stuff, they're wanting 5% of the actual project construction cost set aside as a contingency. Now, these are all debatable, negotiable, but that's what's in their general write-up here right now. They want to watch some limited liability. So they're wanting to limit the liability that comes back to them. And quite frankly, I would say they have some concerns with all of the things they've heard and read and all that about our dams and the dam conditions. So, they're not just really saying, hey, you guys don't really have a problem at all. They're saying you got, all right. And then and then later on in this write-up, it talks about opinions of cost. And a lot of different legal type statements, okay? Then they gave us a one-page that showed all their different categories of engineers, the top engineer, the next one, all that sort of thing. The rate per hour is what they gave us, all right? But as far as a number, the only thing that they gave us is a phase one, $117,000, right? And I said, okay, you guys got to come up with some way of telling us what the total cost is going to be. He said, how in the heck can you expect us to come up with a cost when we don't even know what the parameters are? And Mike Kelter and I have had some conversations about this. There may be some ways that you could approximate some things, right? Like on a percentage basis, say, well, it's about 10%, and different people have used that number, not these guys, okay? Different people have used that 10% number, said 10% of your construction cost. Well, the construction cost today versus 3 years ago before presidential change and all these other things is a different number than it'd be. The engineering cost shouldn't have gone up by the amount that the materials cost have gone up. So you got to watch how you approach that. And I'm not. They honestly say that if you want us to monkey around with something, we can give you something, but you're still not going to know anything until this first phase is done. And I believe that. I don't know how you're gonna come up with something until you've got the first phase done.
And that first phase is all discovery for them.
It's discovery based on previous engineering work that's been done here and testing that's been done, soil analysis and stuff like that. But it also includes meeting with the state and St. John Water Management District to determine what is this stuff, half PMP, full PMP, or whatever. And there's a law engineering report that's stuck out there that if you look back at it, you can see that somebody did some calculations in 1988 where it showed the size of spillways, how much it would have to be increased if you went from 100-year to half PMP to full PMP. Now that may not even be accurate today with the inflow of water from the different sources and all that, but still, there's a big difference and it would translate into a huge difference in engineering cost. I said, look, if we gave you the approval to go ahead with phase one, assuming you can get all the contract language and all that ironed out, then what's next? They said, well, then we go into phase two. And that's where at the end of phase two is where you will know a reasonable number for cost. All right? And so phase one could be done in 3 months. And in phase two, you would be spending some money and potentially some significant money into the next year, the next budget year. And also, just a second, and also, I lost my train of thought. Phase two, we won't know the cost. You can get them to put some monkey business numbers together, but to me, that's not, I don't know that that's the right thing to do. I really don't. I think that you gotta let them get to the next phase. Here's it, I know what I was thinking. The other thing they said, I said, well, okay, what if we do your phase one, it's $117,000, and then we get you to do phase two, and we don't like it. They said, well, then you walk away. Void your contract. The contract that they talk about here, this is the first phase. Right? Now you finish that, now you go into phase 2, you amend the contract, and the contract says, this is what all we're gonna do in phase 2, and at the end of phase 2, you got a number. So I don't know how we can, I personally, Mike disagrees with me, so, but that's okay. Me and him have disagreed a few times, and some of the rest of us in here have disagreed. But I don't know how you can expect to get a reasonable number from these guys unless you do something like this. I really don't. You say, well, what's the worst case? The worst case is you throw $117,000 down to you. But that's not their intent. Their intent is they still want to do work for us. They still want to do work for us. And I mentioned that, this is important. I mentioned this several times already, I'm gonna mention it again. They were the only one that responded. Walt Rigner said there were 2 reasons in his mind that was the case, that we only got 1 response. One was because everybody's busy, and 2 is a lot of these people don't like dealing with municipal service business districts. So, they still are considered, and I've not heard anybody say anything negative about them. Even in this board, I thought, had a good feeling about them. I still do. I think you do too. So that gets us to where do we go from here? I'm not sure I want you to talk.
I'm gonna talk nice about it, because you and I have had a debate on this, probably every couple of days for the last couple of weeks. And, okay, in that phase, in the task order that you have in front of you, about $65,000 is to review old work. And as I've said before, every time you change engineers, you're gonna see that $65,000 bill. Because somebody's gonna have to look at it and make sure they're comfortable with engineering, using that data. So figure that as $65,000 anytime you change engineers. I like a lot of what I saw in that phase 1 scope, and even in the prices. I don't think they're bad. Okay? The problem I got with it is that there is no limit on subsequent phases. So when you start getting into the design phase, say you're going to do $1 million project, okay? And let's say you're thinking in your mind 10% will be for engineering, okay? But it's not written down in your contract. Okay, well, $1 million project means $100,000 worth of engineering, right? Simple math. Okay, but what if, and you always do what ifs when you're looking at these contracts. What if they come back after they do phase 1 and start looking at, designing $1 million project on your dams, and they all of a sudden come out and say, we're going to charge you 40% of the construction costs for engineering, and all of a sudden you're looking at, okay, take it or leave it price of $400,000 for engineering on that project. So what do? Well, you can either take it or leave it, and if you leave it, that contract's over, and that means you go right back to the start again. Do an RFP. When you hire the next guy, pay another $65,000 for him to review all the old work and things like that. I would like to at least see in a contract that you have something that creates the longevity, the contractual longevity that you're going to want to do to get all the work done that you foresee doing on these dams and anywhere else. And that means I would like to see some provisions to say, okay, you may charge up to, but not more than, say, 8, 9, 10% of the construction cost. It doesn't give you an exact cost. I can tell you what, even after they finish the first 2 or 3 months and all their due diligence on it, they ain't gonna know what the real cost of construction is gonna be. Because there's always stuff you don't know. And so putting a cap on that gives you some certainty as a board, okay, down the road, that you're getting a contractual price for the next phases. And all that, and I do appreciate Paul for being very patient with me as we debate.
Okay, you finish so I can talk then. Are you done?
Yeah.
All right. Walt Rigner, who's also on the advisory committee, thinks that we cannot expect anything worth a crap unless we do this phase 1 first. So that's my proposal. Now, you gotta iron out the details of, legal details and some of that, so there's, it's not like you signed an agreement here tonight, but,
Do they give you a timeline?
a timeline to do this,
For
yeah.
phase 1?
Timeline for phase 1 is 3 months.
Whatever you should do,
We don't have one. And if we make these guys, if we're not careful, that's what I said, this is a two-way street. We want them, they want us. Right? Right now, it's still that way. But
Won't have to worry about dredging if we don't do something.
yeah, forget dredging.
So we really can't make any demands for phase 2 and phase 3 until we do phase 1.
We could.
You can put some stuff down in paper and say, give me a percentage of the total estimated construction cost. But if I tell you it's going to be 50%, it's going to be 10% of the total estimated construction cost, and I don't know what the estimated construction cost is, what have I got? 10% of that,
Well, but can we sweeten the pie a little bit and say, well, we're not gonna do phase 2 till you bring us X number of dollars of grant money. Let's see, put your money where your mouth is.
Well, and that was their approach. They said that if you do the grant money business, they want to do that up front, and that's why they've got it in this first phase. Because if you do that up front, if you remember, this is them, not me, then that engineering work fees would be included in refunds from grants and that sort of thing. And don't forget, in our request for qualifications, we didn't put grant assistance. They put that in there because they had looked at our financial condition and dealing with boards and all that, and said, we're gonna have to get some money coming from different ways.
Does they feel good about the grant?
Finding grant money is beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, so it, all right. Technically, you're supposed to write a question down. We've got this thing going way out of whack tonight. It's taking too long too. So, can you write a question down? Get the paper back there. Bring it up here if you would. So, where are we?
Phase 1. Are we gonna vote on phase 1?
Nobody's made a motion yet. I just made a presentation that
Paulson, we need a motion on whether we're accepting or denying the draft budget.
We're nowhere close to that.
Well, in fact, we had a motion, and then we had, Matt made a motion to adopt, an assessment for next year. So that's the things I've got what's outstanding on my.
Yeah, but we haven't got to the point to finish that. I interrupted on it.
Is there some way, like, we agreed to phase 1, which seems to be logical to me. Is there some way that we can incorporate what Mike is suggesting to that? Because I think he's right on the money with our ability to control the way we're going down the road. And I don't see how to do it otherwise.
The other guy that's an engineer on our advisory group disagrees with that.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I said a while ago. Walt does not agree with that. He thinks you gotta go phase 1, then that sets the stage for phase 2, And, otherwise you can't, you're playing games with numbers. You can make it look however you want it to look, you know, unless you do the phase one.
Well, I think you gotta do phase one. How do we know what we want to do or need to do if we don't do phase one? Or even how much reliability are all those reports that we paid for last year really have to the problem at hand? You gotta do phase one.
Well, and like, somebody said, I don't know who said it, but Tom, I guess you said it, if part of phase one is getting the grant stuff going down the road, and if everything turned totally to crap, you've at least got a whole lot of information more than what we've got today on funding sources. But they recommended one that, we didn't even know about, including you, Mike. So they've already done that. And I probably shouldn't have said that, but you and Janet were both involved in it, because I asked you all about it. You said, no, you didn't, wasn't aware of it.
So what do we need to do now?
We need to have any more discussion that we have, or else we go ahead and make a motion and see if we can get a second, and then we have more discussion before we vote. If that's,
I would make a motion that we accept this phase one costing into our draft proposal. That's what we're looking for?
Yes. And I'll second it.
repeat what your last statement was, we accept the phase one.
Accept this $117,000, and I'm sure there's some contingency money should be added on top of that, into our draft proposal, into our draft budget. That's what we want, right?
Actually, we
It's
want
a
to
rhetorical question.
Or we spend it this year and it's not even part of the discussion about the budget.
What we need is a proposal or a motion to accept the responsibility in offering their $117,000 phase one to begin the process. Right? That's what you need.
You need that, provided you get the agreement on that second contract, and we gotta get the details of that worked out. And then Hans has gotta be involved, we've gotta agree to these things. And then Hans has gotta work on it from a legal standpoint.
So we can't approve one until we get your comments on two?
I think you can approve in concept that we wanna go with phase one, and then fix subject to fixing the legal detail.
For the contract on phase
It's the
two.
terms and conditions of what we want.
Right.
Right.
But, Mike Keller disagreed with me, so y'all keep that in mind.
I'm not a voting member.
You're not a voting member, you're not even supposed to talk.
Matt,
Tim Lee was on the advisory committee, you got a,
I do. We keep saying we got 5 years, right? Well, that 5 years is under 4 years now.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. We don't have 5 years before the state comes in here and says, too bad.
You're right.
We're also
We don't have to
significantly
worry about
further
that
along than we
bridging.
were. We don't have broken valves like we did.
Right, but we're still haven't made any improvements.
No.
Then Cammy Dewey and them said, don't be here 5 years from now with the same issues without making any improvements. Now, I don't think that included the repairing valves, but we're under 4 years since that has been said, so we're
You
getting,
can still wait.
we're running out of time. Cause you're already talking 3 months, and then you're talking probably mid to next year, towards the end of next year before we ever break ground.
And that's the third year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be at least probably a year of modeling for all this.
well, they in their RFQ, they had a year's time frame
Yeah.
allocated out on that
Yeah.
chart. So,
I'm just saying breaking ground I don't think that's gonna happen next fiscal year.
yes, agreed. Did you wanna say something?
My problem is the kind of money we're looking at and the future money.
I question whether or not the board should make a decision tonight without a further discussion. I mean, I don't wanna beat things to death, but think about the money we're gonna be spending. We're gonna spend it anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how you know how much money.
The
we're
day of
gonna spend
reckoning is
until we
here.
know.
I'm concerned about this, not so much phase one, thereafter. I'm not,
But don't we have the latitude, we're basically going phase one, then phase two, then phase three, and XXX. We don't have to do them, one right after the other. If we don't like what we see on phase two, if we don't like the price, we might have to delay it a year.
Or go to a different phase.
But I think we all have to realize we're on the hook with this engineering outfit, because I didn't see anybody else lining up at the door.
I understand what you're saying, I just don't like.
And we may have to pay a premium for this one-on-one relationship.
There's a whole lot of people don't look at $2,400, but that, it might be that.
See, that's
It's
why I
already
go
been
back.
agreed upon.
Okay, see, that's why I
I
go
know we
back
don't like it, but it's been agreed upon. That's right.
to the budget. So, okay, let's do one at a time, okay? I'm in the minority, that's fine, that's the way, that's called politics, that's the way it goes. That's fine, and I accept that. I just made my comment, that's all. The board, the chairman is in charge, and he will,
So my 2 cents, I think we should strike line item 2.5. I don't think that brings any value to the conversation for them or for us. And I think we should amend line item 2.9 to not be an in-person thing. I don't see any reason we couldn't have a teleconference with them, have a computer sitting right here, we can all hear the speaker, and I think we could shave probably $9,000 off of that. So between the two line items, we could be saving $15,000 just by not having people fly in from Chicago.
Yeah, I think we should be able to negotiate all of these with some level of goodwill between the parties.
Are you talking about, you're looking at the list where they've got those?
The itemized task fee list,
That's not even the final one, is it?
I don't know about a final
It's
one.
not the final one, because the final.
Scope of services for professional engineering services.
No, that is not, that's the one that I messed up on and said, no, you have to put that in a contract format. So this is null and void.
It's not null and void because the same language is in the contract.
It's the same language in the contract. You're exactly right, except for a few changes, and I can tell you where those changes are. There was changes that were requested by either myself or somebody in the advisory group and that sort of thing. But it was stuff like designating Lamster representative involved in the meetings with the St. John Water Management District and the state. Same way with inspections. That's under 2.5. And
But again, the same concept, they've already met with the dam safety officer, they've already met.
no. They're going to be meeting with you.
They sat in front of here and told us to our faces that they have already met with the dam safety
They
officer.
said that,
I think they know you.
I agree with Matt, that's what they said.
they did not say they discussed the scope and possibility of scope of details from an engineering standpoint. That has not been done. That's not been done.
What scope? There's no scope here. There's no 30% documents to discuss. There is nothing for them to discuss at this point.
With Tracy and the
Yes.
St. John Water Management District? Nothing like we're sitting here with a 100-year, flood design dams now that's totally unacceptable, that could have to go to full PMP? That's what you gotta determine, isn't it?
You don't need to fly them in from Chicago and have an in-person meeting for that. That's why God invented telephones.
Okay, but procedurally, you still gotta go through that process. I don't care if you're doing it by phone or by,
Well, for $6,000, you should care.
They don't have the $6,000, it's not in this final document.
It's 117,724. It's the same figure. That's how they came up with the figure.
I understand.
They came up with it by adding in $5,965 for an in-person meeting.
And they are planning to have an in-person meeting with Tracy Wood.
And I make a motion that we strike that from the contract right now.
Are we gonna nitpick everything they do going forward?
You can't conduct modern business by phone.
Break off the
all time.
contract.
You have to meet face to face with people.
You have to fly someone in from Chicago. Are you kidding me?
I've flown from.
I've conducted,
Los Angeles
I've conducted meetings with my physician over the computer.
Called Zoom. Everything's changed.
Yeah, that's.
No, that was 100% legit. You don't have to
Depends.
fly.
I don't.
To have a conversation of whether or not you need 100 a year or 500 a year or a PMP or whatever is a phone call. That is a 5-minute phone call. That is not a $6,000, I'm gonna get on my Learjet and fly down from Chicago to have an in-person meeting.
I agree, but you're not.
I don't agree with you.
Including all the nuanced stuff that sometimes, like I said earlier, the political stuff that goes on.
Again, they sat in front of us and said they have the political connection. We've met with them, we shook hands with them, we know them. Okay, then pick up the phone and make a call. Do the Zoom call.
It's still gotta be done though, right?
Not for $6,000.
You still gotta do it before you can move on with the project.
No, you do not need to have an in-person meeting. That's what I'm saying. That's in the scope. That is in your scope.
It's not in,
Yes, show me. Show me where it says the meeting.
It's in the writing now, okay? But the writing doesn't reference that dollar figure.
No, it doesn't, but that's where the dollar figure comes from. There's a reason why those $2 amounts are exactly the same.
Okay.
To the dollar.
So that's what you wanna do then, is you wanna nitpick is it 5,000 here? Okay, move that 5,000 somewhere else. You know? I'm not.
So you don't want to negotiate for $6,000 of fluff?
I don't know.
You think you want to piss away these people's money over $6,000 because you had them rearrange the contract? That's where the money's coming from.
I already, for your information, already had go-arounds with them about cost. So these numbers are lower than they started out to be.
So what's the
And that's my job.
Look what we've already spent with that other engineer, and that 50 we just threw out the window. They come in with a different, every month, I wasn't on the board, I come to every single meeting, and every month they showed up, they had a new figure for us, didn't they? A higher figure every month. And they finally did get rid of them, I wasn't on the board, but that was really ridiculous.
I don't see any reason why we can't have an adult conversation with them about these costs and suggest, well, let's maybe not spend $6,000 and let's have a phone conversation.
And you can call that
I don't think that should scuttle the negotiation.
You can call that nitpicking, you can call that negotiating between two good faith partners, whatever you want to call it. What I'm saying is I believe there's $15,000 here that we shouldn't expect our tax base to pay.
Fair enough.
What are they?
Of Tracy, because Tracy has nothing to do with this.
5965 for meeting with Florida's Dam Safety Officer and SJRWMD.
Okay.
And there will be some number between $12,000 and zero that represents them summarizing findings and presenting it to us via computer versus in person. I assume that number is going to be close to 3,000 because they had a line item in the first version that was for 3,700 where they summarized and coordinated with us virtually. I don't see why they couldn't summarize and coordinate with us virtually again.
Well, there could be, and I'll just throw this out as it could be, because I don't know, but there could be that they're combining some of these things and or can combine some of these things. They're gonna have to come here for some visits with us. We know that. They're gonna have to come here to walk the facilities with their respected people that they have on this project.
Yeah, but
So they're gonna have to be here.
those are items that are in here. Coming here, conducting independent data analysis, that's in here. Engineering site inspections, in-person meeting while there, that's in here. That's a $12,000 line item. I'm not arguing the $12,000 line item. I'm arguing the $6,000 line item and the other $12,000 line item.
Okay.
So is there any reason we couldn't send them an email to ask them to remove that from their contract and re-quote us?
It's not in their contract. It's not dollarized in the latest contract you got.
So can we ask them to remove the verbiage from their contract and then re-quote us for the contract?
Do you want to remove the verbiage where you're not gonna have a meeting with them?
The in-person verbiage,
Do you
yes.
wanna have them not to meet with Tracy Wood and St.
Can't
John
do
Water
it.
Management District?
Not in person.
But you want them to do it. They gotta do it, or we can't get there from here.
I understand that. The word in person is right here. It's in your version. It's in the cost. I don't want to eat $6,000 of in person. Maybe it's $500 of virtual.
That's right.
Maybe it's $1,000 of virtual. It doesn't have to be $6,000 of in person.
I agree.
Look, that could be.
I work with Cammie Dewey. She has a computer. She knows how to use it. We have Skype meetings all the time.
I would personally think there's a tremendous benefit in sitting there with those people, not on a darn video conference, because I've done depositions and all kinds of stuff on legal video, whatever you call all these things. I think there's definitely some, as serious as this thing is to us, and as serious as it is to each person out here at up to $2,400, to sit face to face with Cammie Dewey and Tracy Wood. I think that there's tremendous value in that.
I think there's absolutely zero value in that.
I disagree with you 100%.
Can I say something? I'd like to make a motion to approve what Matt has referred to. I don't see a need for in-person meetings when we could do a virtual meeting, say,
I disagree with you.
Second.
I would make a motion that we accept the thing that I said before.
We have a
That go
motion and a
ahead.
second.
on the table.
What?
Second.
Motion on the floor.
Okay, can I ask a legal question here, Hans?
Sure.
We can, I think that we have other possibilities other than having additional discussion and going to a vote, like postpone it until a later date.
Well, here's.
What is the options? That's what I'm asking. I shouldn't have given you the solution. I'm asking.
Well, okay. So, sitting here, here's what I think maybe the issue is we need engineers talking to engineers. And so I think we're lucky in the sense that Matt's an engineer, we got Mike, you're not, okay, I don't. You mentioned Walt, you're an engineer?
I'm an engineer.
Okay. So before you have.
He's an engineer.
Yeah, okay, great. So this is awesome, this is great. So before you have me go redline the contract, adding all this stuff in, I think you need engineers talking engineering language to Hanson. Because I'm an attorney. I don't know anything about this engineering stuff. When I look at this, I'm not disagreeing with Matt, but I don't know where it says flying down from Chicago. I'm not disagreeing with him. Maybe that's somewhere else. What I'm saying
that wasn't
is,
written. That was me extrapolating.
Right, exactly. So what I'm saying is we don't know. Like, I hear you guys talking about this. You might be right, you might be wrong. You might be right, you might be wrong. What I'm saying is you need engineers talking to engineers before the lawyer does the lawyer stuff. And you all figure it out. That's why I say you're lucky that you do have, Because I can tell you what from an accounting perspective, when I have non-lawyers trying to talk to me about what it takes to do my job as a lawyer, and you could talk about any other profession, accounting, engineering, general contractor. So what I'm saying is you engineers talk to their engineers, negotiate what you think, get to the bottom of it, because maybe, another thing I think of when I look at this, how do we know, and I don't know, because I've never talked to Tracy Woods, how do we know that Tracy Woods isn't going to require an in-person meeting, or the Water Management District? Maybe they're going to require an in-person, maybe this is out of Hanson's control. I'm just telling you things that I think about from a non-engineering perspective. I mean, maybe Hanson is overbilling and that's what the issue is, or maybe they're not, and maybe they're basing their estimate on, well, at some point the state of Florida or the Water Management District is going to tell us what they want us to do. And maybe they're building in that cost. I don't know. So let the engineers talk to the engineers. You guys figure out what the right price is. You negotiate all that. Then you can have me go in and redline the legalese.
Yeah, okay, but that wasn't my question at all.
All right, well, that was just my 2 cents.
All right, I understand that, but
I thought you were asking me for options. That's an option.
Options on where we're at here. I mean, I said, well, I'll make a motion. You said, well, you already got a motion in a second. Then that is on this $6,000 or virtual visions. But my motion would have been on the whole scope, going ahead with phase one.
Well, you could make a motion to approve phase one contingent on maybe a special committee with whoever the engineers are that want to talk to Hanson about the itemized cost of the contract. You can make a motion to approve phase one contingent on meeting of minds of the itemized cost, and then having me redline for the legal terms.
I understand it, but I guess when we're sitting here and talking about this stuff, had I told them to give us a proposal on a contract basis like we've got now that didn't even have this other piece of paper that's causing all this confusion, then that was my mistake in doing it. Okay? So, but the other proposal they got is not broken out in detail like that. Sure, it totals up the same dollar figure, but
Well, I apologize if I didn't answer the question. I thought I was answering it.
But I think there's 3 motions. I made a motion. I thought I made a motion earlier.
I thought you did too.
Yeah, so there's 3 motions here and we're ignoring all of them.
I second yours.
You seconded it?
Absolutely did.
Okay, so.
My motion was simply that we accept this, on aggregate, this number as phase one. We can't micromanage their business. I think that's.
Well, hold on. Your motion was to add that into the budget. It wasn't to sign the contract necessarily, right?
You're right.
Am I remembering that right?
I thought that's what I was being asked, or we were trying.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But
My proposal would have been just what he said for approval of this contract.
my only comments is that you can't micromanage
Exactly.
the people you're working with.
This isn't micromanaging. This is good faith negotiation.
Well, can be construed either way. You're right. I think that
$15,000 is worth micromanaging.
We owe our people to go try and negotiate, but they may think, we don't, but we do. We should try.
Then again, I'm perfectly happy with sending an email to them and asking them for a requote and them saying back to us, nope, we're going to meet in person or nothing. Then if that's their response, then they're not a company I want to do business with.
I don't agree with you. And I've said it, you
Now,
understand.
I haven't read the terms and conditions, but is there any contingency language in, or LDs in the contract language? Is there anything else in the background that I haven't read yet?
I mean, you saw the 8-page, did you see like the 8 or 10 pages of legal talk?
Yeah,
Six pages.
Whatever it was.
One ear and out the other, right?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot about contingency in there.
Do we have a second on anything?
He had a second from him. So that was the first motion on the floor.
That was to get it on the budget.
That was to get it on the budget.
So now we've got.
So technically, we should address that motion to get this on the budget before we do anything.
No, it's fine.
No, you're good, Tom.
But we need to vote.
Excuse me. Alden said that the 117 for the phase one is going to be in this year, not next year, so it does not belong in next year's budget. So what you are proposing is invalid, according to what?
Oh, because it's already there.
Because it's already in this year.
Okay.
So we can do away with it.
So that motion you need doesn't.
Okay, so now we're up to Matt's motion?
Well, hold on. Tom still has a motion with a second. Are you withdrawing the motion or are you keeping it?
I'll withdraw it.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're up to Matt.
Carl had a motion next.
I motion that I agree with Matt, that we should, now I can't remember all of what I said now.
You wanted to
talked
strike
about-
the in-person language from the contract. You wanted to strike.
Okay,
the
in person, yes, I agree that, I don't see why we can't at least try to have a virtual meeting.
I don't see why we can't have an email sent from, it can come from you, it can come from whomever, to them. Would you please requote us based on meeting virtually with St. John's, with FDEP, and summarizing your final findings in phase one to us, virtually.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, so he's got a motion, now he's looking for a second.
I need the motion before you can do it.
The motion is that we send an email to Hanson asking them to amend the language such that they can meet with the Florida Dam Safety Officer and SJRWMD virtually, as well as presenting findings of phase one to us virtually and requoting the contract.
You got that?
I will by the time I get to the recording. But now I know what I'm looking for.
I'm gonna second. I second his motion.
All right, we've discussed it some. Any more discussion?
Do we need to address what happens if they say no? Or does this go for another month?
Let's get this one done, and then we'll figure that out.
I don't know how you can accept that kind of motion when you haven't accepted my talk, which was headed to a motion in the first place. Because we haven't, you're making motions and accepting motions on something that the whole scope hasn't even been approved yet. So I think we're way out of line.
But we can get his question out of the way, and then we can move to yours.
The motion is to accept the scope as written with those two modifications.
Okay, so that's the motion, is to accept the scope as written with those two modifications. Potential modification. May not work.
Okay, again, we're sending an email and they say, no problem, here's your new quote. We talk again next month.
Next month?
Yes.
No.
Next month?
They're not going to email us back at 10 o'clock at night on a Monday.
Get his out of the way, then move to yours, so we know what we're doing.
Okay, so we got a motion, second, any more discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, let's do this, I don't want to, this is gonna be, let's stick your hand up. All in favor, right hand up. 2. All opposed? 5-2. All right. I make a motion that we accept the phase 1 proposal that we've got from Hanson, subject to 2 things. One is the contingency amount that they have what's wrong? One is the contingency amount, and I can leave it alone the way it is, because I don't know enough about it to change it. But if I was looking at it from a board standpoint, this is one of the things that I would want to consider. Is, on item 10, it says contingency fund. The client agrees to set aside a reserve in the amount of 5% of the actual project construction cost as a contingency reserve to be used as required to pay for any such increased project cost. All right? We don't even know what that cost is yet, either though. So is 5% a decent number or not? I don't know. The other was in item 11, additional limitation. That's where they talk about what their liability can be. Amount, aggregate amount of the client's damages shall not exceed $50,000 or Hanson's total net fee for services rendered on the project. We don't know that either yet. So, not sure. That's the only two things I see in here that I would have even had enough sense to highlight. There's another one in here that says opinions of cost, item 21. It says if the client wishes greater assurance as to the construction cost, the client shall employ an independent cost estimator. Well, I don't want to do that.
Is this 5% of the total cost or 5% per phase?
We're only discussing one phase right now.
Okay.
There's just the one. Yep.
Yeah, it's just,
Okay.
yeah. And then after you do phase one, then you go into phase two and you have an amendment to these terms and conditions.
Does the secretary have the motion?
I have the alternate order to make a motion, but I have no idea what it is. Because he read a bunch of stuff and I don't know what it was.
I said that I will make a motion that we approve phase one.
Approve phase one, okay.
And that, I'm gonna just leave it at that. I'm just gonna leave it at that we approve phase one the way this last document was written.
As presented, Alton?
Huh?
As presented,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
All right, any more discussion?
Go right ahead.
So nobody has any concerns if their billing cycle doesn't line up with ours? Their billing terms and conditions were not the same as ours.
Yeah, so they have 30 day, maybe turn it in, you may have.
So we're gonna be paying an extra, 3 or 5% premium on top of every single payment because we're gonna be behind every month. 1.5. 1.5.
Should be subject to our pay policy.
I'd say 60 days in that.
I discussed that with them, even though it's not in writing and therefore not a contract, but they know that we pay once a month. They know that they've got to get stuff submitted on a certain date, that sort of thing. So they're not ignorant of it. My point is they're not ignorant that there's something there pay-wise. That's fine. That will be a detail, Hans, that I would hope you can handle for me. Any more discussion? All right. All in favor, stick your hands up right in. All right. Opposed? 5-2. Okay. Now I guess we're back to the budget, or?
Back to the budget. Okay, I kind of lost track. First of all, Matt was talking about a base of $1,200. Why did we use certain items?
Yeah, but before we get there, I just remembered I didn't see workers' comp as a line item.
That's part of the insurance.
Okay, so that's covered in
At
there?
this moment, that's.
Okay. Okay.
10,000 covers our liability and our workers' comp, and then the extra 250 is for our bond.
Okay.
For 3 officers, which includes you. So, that is separate. So, let me ask the question again, what was deleted? I lost track of. Tom, do you have any idea?
No.
Okay.
The 117 was added, we made a couple of changes in the repair.
Okay, 117 goes up into the adjust balance
Engineering.
carry forward.
No, that goes into engineering. We changed repairs and maintenance miscellaneous to 30,000. We changed the tow drain to 30,000.
Got it.
Okay, and then the infrastructure was changed to 400,000. The tree removal for 250 was eliminated. And the reserve for contingencies is now 1565. And we have a balanced budget with the $2,400 assessment.
Okay, that's what Matt has suggested. Basically, I'm just gonna say, he's a trustee, I'm a trustee, we're all trustees, we have different opinions. I don't see us deleting that, so that's my opinion. So, someone needs to make a motion. Did you make you made a motion to,
Yeah, right immediately before we began the long detour, I made a motion, no second yet, to, for purposes of this discussion and this budget, adopt a $1,200 assessment.
okay, that's right.
There's a motion been made.
We need a second.
I haven't heard a second yet. Going once, twice, 3 times, there's no second. So what does that mean legally?
Means
the motion
move along.
failed, so. All right.
Can I ask a question? Can you get everybody involved, get their hands into the mud? Can we ask everyone what they, 1,200 is too low. I recommend a 2,400, at least the first year, to get a cash basis. Matt feels we can do without financing. I don't agree on that. What if we have an emergency? We cut out the emergency fund and we have an emergency. We have no money, so we'll get a loan. Now, I'm not saying 2,400 is the fund, is the figure, but right now, that's the only figure I can come up, but I'm just one person, there's other people on the board. So what does everybody else think? That's my question.
I'd like to know what the figure is for 1,600. I know it's only $400 more than what it is.
Well,
I can give you 1,800 and 2,000.
1,800.
Work those both out.
Mm.
Okay, so for $18,000,
$18,000.
$18,000 per person per year. Okay, so $1,800. The $1,200 would give us $260,000, and I'm going to use that as a number because that's the only one that's going to change. So in theory, at the beginning of the year, we start out with $260,000 the following year. Okay, at $1,800, that jumps up to $500,000. At $2,000, it jumps up to $580,000, and at $2,400, it's at $750,000. So you're going from $260,000 to $500,000 to $580,000 to $750,000.
And, if these guys are what we think they are, they better come through with some money and then we can get that rascal changed. But we haven't got it changed yet, so I'm a little reluctant on that. Of course, I guess.
I'm gonna say one more time.
Would you mind, Tom, repeating those numbers? I listened, but I didn't write them down.
$2,400 assessment, $750,000.
Or at the beginning of the year.
The following year, right, okay? 1,200, we're looking at 260,000. At 1,800, we're looking at 500,000. And at 2,000, we're looking at 580,000.
So where have we been typically?
Well, the balance coming forward is 460.
Okay, so
So at $2,000,
historically, we're somewhere around
we're treading water at $2,000. We're not gaining anything, we're not losing anything.
Thank you.
My only comment in the discussion forum still is that, I don't like it. I have to pay it too, but, we have dug ourselves a deep hole. And, I think that anything less than 2,400 until we see our way clearer is all we can do. And I've said that in every meeting that we've had here, that every meeting.
Can I ask a question about just my 2 cents? Don't you approve this budget every year?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
next year,
We're gonna look at it again.
next year, if you do the 2,400, and next year, if cost or whatever.
We may have a complete picture this time next year, which says we can do something different. That's what I want us to do. But right now, from my standpoint, we have too many unknowns. I don't want to see us going $2,400 for this girl.
You guys have kind of answered this, but there's
Do what now?
we've kind of answered that already, but I want to know why we're erring on the high side instead of the low side, like Matt suggested. Why, if we don't know the cost yet, and we think we're confident they're gonna get us grants, why do we have to err on the high side?
We don't know about grants.
You guys just said that, you guys are confident they're gonna help us get the
We
grants.
know that they're going to try, we don't know that they will.
I don't understand why we have to go high if we think they're getting the grants and we don't know what the cost is. Why are we erring on the high side?
There's a one-year lifetime. You lowball it this year, there's gonna be 2 more years before we get anything going.
Right.
We're already
It
3
also
years
would have
behind.
to go back to another vote, right?
No,
We don't have.
the way the referendum was published was up to 2,400. It didn't say it had to be 2,400.
But once you decide, we can't go back and make it 2,400 the year after that without another vote, right?
You go through a budgeting process again, so every year, if you said next year we got a rainfall of money comes in from stuff that Hanson or Kimberly Horn works on, then you can cut it back.
And we know our engineering costs.
But it doesn't have to go down to the voters.
Okay, hang on, let's give, we've been avoiding him, and I've let everybody else talk, which I won't do that again, but.
Well, I think we need to clarify, $2,400 is an unlimited number of years.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
what
just
she's saying.
1 year. So if this year we take 2,400, but next year we find out we can do it for less, we can drop it down. Or if we find out we still have to have it, we go on, but it's an unlimited number of years. And just changing it 1 year doesn't change the amount.
Right, but I'm saying once you establish based on the vote that was taken, if you say 2,400 and then the next year comes back and you know, 1,200 or whatever we're saying here, you can't vote to increase it again without another vote.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Every year.
Every year.
It can be up to that, it doesn't have to be.
Hopefully it won't be.
Yeah.
How long is this all supposed to take?
Long damn time.
Well,
But I think faster if we have more money, right?
that's correct. And that's the one, think about it, that's the one very, very positive thing about Kimberly Horn tied in with Hanson that makes them really attractive. And they're the ones that brought it up. So.
I just don't think we want to stand for 5 to 7 years of construction. If it's because we're only getting $1,200 a year, we have to keep extending it out. I would rather see it done in 3 to 5 years and pay the 2,400 and be done with it.
Well, here's the other thing that hadn't been mentioned tonight, and I'm negligent on this, is that dam, the north dam is rated as unsatisfactory, all right? That is a terrible rating. It says you better do something, you better do it quick, okay? It's a high hazard dam. That means it's subject to failure, and they've got all this crap that's in these reports that says, you know, you got all the piping and all kinds of stuff on the north dam, and if that dam fails, then you're subject to major loss of property and possible death. All right? So, do we want to drag this thing on? No. No. If we do and something happens, that is going to be hard to live with personally. Forget about legal implications and all that. Just think about that. Jesus.
In 25 years from now, when the people are on this board and are living here, they don't have to put up with what we're doing right now. Because it's gonna be taken care of for a 500-year flood.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Once it's approved,
Course, I don't-
everything,
I
how
don't believe
long
there's such a
from
thing anyway.
beginning to end will the dams and everything be fixed?
I would guess 5 years.
So for 5 years, you want
Maybe.
$2,400 a year?
No, if we can get some money coming in from grants and that sort of thing, other funding sources, then we can drop it back.
Yeah.
And that would be the
So
intention.
the answer is maybe.
But the intention would be, we hire these people, they better do us a good job or we're all gonna be disappointed. They know that. And as soon as they do us a good job from the financial standpoint, that we can reduce the number from the 2,400 down to something, I don't know that it, then we will do that. We should do that.
So they're gonna work on the north dam first?
The North Dam is a critical dam.
Yeah, that's what I am. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're off track, man. I don't know who screwed this up. I guess I did by saying, I'll let everybody talk when they want to, sort of, even though I didn't say it that way. I've done that, so I've screwed that up. I'm sorry.
So I'll make a motion to approve the budget of 2,400.
All right. You second?
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, right hand. All opposed, right hand. Okay, 5-2. Okay. Now, that take care of that. The other question though is, this is the preliminary approval of the draft.
Finalize it next month.
So we gotta do this again next month?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
189 makes this total one.
All right.
Can you make that motion 6/31, 6/1 to approve it?
Okay.
Quick question. I don't know where we're at here, but security fencing and gates, what has someone conjured up that we need to spend $25,000 for?
I think it's pulling out of the air because we're talking about the east and west end of South Lake Asbury code only, because that's being attacked by, all sorts of, those gangster, vehicles. And then the Lake Ryan issue is that property to the east is cleared off and we're now it's wide open, and we have no fence at the other end. That's about $25,000 for a 4 foot. I'm not talking about Lake Asbury, because that's 440 feet because that lot's 440 feet long. That could use one, but we don't need that until the trees come off. It becomes an attractive nuisance for every monster wagon.
So we've identified 3 different locations that.
That's what I suggested, but it's a board decision. I just threw things out for conversation. I am not the author.
He's talking
But
about.
I will be 3 seconds from now.
Okay. I just wanted to know.
It could be less.
2 hours is up.
That engineer, if I'm not mistaken, that engineering group talked about fencing the property off after they get your, they mentioned that one in their proposal.
Once they finish the project, put the fence up.
Yep, sure did.
But we're not
Talking about keeping the kids and stuff away from,
we don't have to, but Lake Ryan, South Lake Asbury, I'm not gonna be working initially.
All right, look, it looks like we've lost our
So in the
audience.
budget, we can take it out next month.
So now we can either delay the rest of this stuff until the next meeting or continue.
You gonna vote on it, Doc?
Vote on the dock piece, yeah, that was a continuation of business, but it's not on the agenda yet. I mean, it's on the agenda, but it's, if we go through the agenda, we still got a bunch of other stuff to get to before we get to that. See,
How long will it take us to get through the rest of this?
I don't know, I just got
You
started.
can delete mine because Hans and I are working on a pay policy when I'm done. So you can basically look at it.
Well, I think
I also made a suggestion to new business about down draw, so that was, had to be new business, that was not on the agenda.
About what?
I made a suggestion I sent to the board that we need a down draw
Yes.
procedure.
And I asked Tim to get with Matt. Matt has that technically in his.
Okay, well, Matt thinks is fine with me.
So if Tim will get with Matt and make sure that what he wrote up seems to be acceptable, then.
Matt can change anything he wants, as long as we get a procedure that we follow.
Well, he can't change anything he wants, that's why Tim needs to be involved.
All right.
Tim and I have dealt
All right,
with
fine. As long as we get a procedure and we need it ASAP.
I understand that.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I agree. There may be, I didn't look at it, Carl, but I looked at it, but there may be a few little tweaks on it.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
All right.
We're done.
I was the guy that just asked, this isn't already in our action?
And yes, it is. It's in the EAP. It's in the EAP today, but that was put in by Tecoy.
Yes.
And we were installing a siphon system when the hurricane was coming and all that stuff.
So it needs to be
And we hadn't even got the east valve repaired then. If we repaired the east valve, we wouldn't have to spend $35,000 for a siphon system. But we couldn't get that done at that time.
And there's one other technical thing from my mind, the 25 turns. So how many turns does it take to open the damn valve?
Which one?
Do we have a table?
Eight.
Do we have a table that,
Yes, we do.
that should be in our?
We've got the, we checked every valve and how many turns it took over.
Okay.
And we've documented that.
So we're opening at roughly a third.
Yeah, he's done that, looking at what the rainfall was.
Yeah.
Carl keeps up with the inflow of rain. But then, you get 3 inches of rain, you get 5.5 inches of water, whatever the number is. So he's the guy, we paid him to open valves and close them and all that. It's kind of interesting now that we got them working, everybody wants to open at different times. So we're breaking everything.
Matt, you be ready for the July meeting to finish that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, fine. Good.
We've got to go do some work Sunday, so we can talk about it Sunday then if you want to.
Yep.
We covered that subject now. Go ahead.
All right. I don't know what else we got. The only thing I was gonna suggest or mention to you guys is I went down and I talked to the elections office, and noon Friday the 17th of June is when your paperwork has to be in. If all of us on the board or anybody else that wants to run for the board has to be done by noon on the 17th. In that, you've got this Form 1 that we just got a letter on. If you were on the board before, you just got a letter on. That is included in that. Now, it says in the letter you got till July, but when you file for, if you're gonna run again by this date, Friday, June 17th at noon, you've gotta have your Form 1.
Well, yeah, but I don't have to run this time.
You're not running this time. You're the only one. The rest of us do.
No, but your Form 1's due for last year.
Form 1's for anybody that's running for,
Yeah.
that's
But
having to
we've got
run.
those we've already gotten, those are set back.
But that's for 2020.
And you can't go down.
2020, we'll put another one for the next
Go
year.
down now. I'll let you
Yeah.
sign up.
Yeah. All right, and then you got a Form 1, and then you've got an affidavit of intention, special district candidate. You gotta fill that form out. Then you got a statement of candidate that you gotta fill out. Then you gotta pay a $25 filing fee. And it's all of the seats Janet except number 5, so that's you, right?
Yeah.
I'm not Janet, Carol, I'm sorry. And then, you got, they handed this to me, it was, notice of logic and accuracy test, I wonder what that was, of the voting equipment. So they give you that piece of paper and you gotta sign it too. So there's the statements that you've gotta do. And I was surprised by that Form 1 because the letter you got in the mail clearly said you had to July the 1st to do it. But when you look at the requirements on filing, it's in it. And I asked her that specifically, and she said, yeah.
I thought it was on Form 1.
Huh?
I thought it was on Form 1.
I've already submitted my Form 1, so what I'm hearing you say is I've got to resubmit it with the application?
Well, I don't know, but I know that, you've got
Planning
these.
Commission should have a copy. See, I take my stuff down, I want them stamped in.
Yeah.
And I fill all the forms out right there. Where do you go? Clay Elections. Stay there and fill out the forms. Throw you $25 in the county.
Yeah.
That way you know you got it all there.
And they'll give you a stamped copy back.
See, I went down there, but I didn't have my Form 1 updated. So I need to change, there's a few changes on my Form 1 from last year to this year. So I didn't do it, but I went ahead and made sure that I knew when I was there. And I did, and I told her, I said, the letter I got said Form 1 wouldn't do July 1st. Anyway, so.
Okay, whatever.
I always,
go down there and read over that stamp.
okay, I'm done. So I'm done, so I don't know where we got. I do have one other thing, let me go back. We made, this was in last month, we made a motion to approve up to $3,500 for a 15-foot walkway out to the south dam kennel valve. And, Hayward came back with a proposal and shocked me because he had given us some kind of off the top of his head number. And so the end result was at $3,500, and I said we ought to be able to get it for that. It's $5,700, but that's considerably less than his first quote. So I would guess that $5,700 probably is still an all right number. So I would make a motion that we up the approval on the last motion from $3,500 to $5,700.
Second.
Any discussion? It was 10-8 when he came back with 10-7 or 10-8. Yeah. I said, "What are you smoking, man?" So I negotiated it.
So we gotta take.
So all I gotta do is $5,000 here, $5,000 there. Next thing you know, it comes to more money. All right. All in favor? Any more discussion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we got that cleared. I'll get a hold of him.
Kathy with Hayward.
Huh?
Kathy with Hayward. You said you'll get a hold of Kathy with Hayward to build it on.
Yeah, Hayward.
Hayward.
Okay. All right, so I'm done, but where are we at there? Mr. Lady, you had several things on the list.
No, I can defer. I'm
You
going
gonna
to
defer?
for a month.
All right, Mr. Finch, you been water tested? You already covered that, so. You ain't here? Okay, you're done.
We're still taking the water samples.
Yeah. Okay. Matt?
I'll defer everything except for the property encroachments. Talking with Tim, Carl was passing by, and just FYI, one of the property owners is planting new trees on our north dam, so that's always a treat.
But maybe they're not.
He reported that to the chairman hot-footed him down there. The only thing the guy has done is he built a new bulkhead and boathouse on the creek. And,
That's the creek side.
He planted grass and a few shrubs down by his, by the
Okay,
creek.
okay.
There wasn't any trees.
Oh, thank God.
There were some trees on the guy's trailer that was apparently going somewhere else.
So, the other thing is, who was it that was willing to sell? Tim?
Well, I gotta call him tomorrow and see what he has to say.
We have the owner of our north spillway has at least tentatively offered to sell us back the spillway property. There's no number associated with that. The board may wish to engage in a property assessor so that we can, not an assessor, property estimator, appraiser, so that we can get out there and figure out what a real reasonable figure would be. But
It doesn't matter what.
at least we would own the property. Well, again, his number may or may not be reasonable, we don't have that, but, yeah, we get a number and then we own the spillway, and then we don't have to abandon a perfectly good spillway. just because we don't own the property.
Man, my only question is, does the boat ramp still work and will we have access to bike?
No.
Good question. Spillway's in a different area than the boat ramp.
Oh, the boat ramp, or the land?
He's just wanting to sell the spillway.
Those in parcel park.
He's still developing property and everything, his house.
I got it.
Boat ramp.
So he's selling a little
I was-
piece of the property.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, get the boat ramp to the.
I got you.
Yep, so that was the only update. The rest I'll punt.
I'm not gonna repeat a source, and I probably shouldn't even repeat anything that affects the
Not
city.
yet.
But,
We are being recorded.
yeah, I know, there's, and Donnie's not in here, so I'd rather say it to him, but I ain't gonna say it to him, so, I'm not gonna say it. Let's just look at it this way, there's all of these kinds of things that are gonna come to a head, including the ownership of lots below the dam and all of that, and the county is still involved. They can't divorce themselves from some of this stuff either, so.
So do we need to get an appraiser?
I don't.
That should be a no-cost item, because there's realtors on every street corner.
Well, Donnie's gonna give him a price.
Yeah,
But then you might need to get an appraiser. I mean, Donnie may tell you $500,000 or something for the spillway, because, that's concrete, and it's a nice structure, and it.
Well, technically, he doesn't, I mean, he owns the property, but I don't think he owns the structure itself. It's
I think
weird.
you're right, and I think, there's still rumors that there's an easement there too. Even
I don't know. There's no easement. There's no easement.
Okay, Jerry, you got anything? You got anything else?
No.
Hans? Carol, anything else? You pass? Okay. I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
All opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Wasn't too bad.
No.
I was thinking we had another half hour at least.
We were on track.